Chapter 687. It was very awkward to be exposed as a bandit. It was even more awkward to be mistaken as a disciple of the Tang clan. Jun Patriarch was in a terrible mood. Swoosh. Swoosh. Dozens of black-clothed men appeared behind him. There were more than 100 of them. They all had one thing in common, and that was that they were all wearing strange masks. This was the darkness sect that had targeted him time and time again. Jun Changxiao frowned. Were they here to stop the Tang clan's second young master, or to stop him? Whoosh whoosh, nearly 100 black-clothed men stood on the official road, emitting a sinister aura. The Windchaser horse was startled and stopped, its limbs trembling. Jun Changxiao immediately understood that they were here to stop the Tang clan's second young master. Swoosh. Swoosh. The hurricane wolves that Li Qingyang and the others were riding were not disturbed. They quickly rushed over and completely protected the 4 carriages. Young Master Tang, Jun Changxiao said in a low voice. This is not a drill. Tang Xiao immediately realized that they were not disciples of the sect of all times, but real bandits. Sigh. He shook his head and said, It's not easy to go out. Why are there so many problems? Jun Changxiao said, Young Master Tang is a walking wallet. Naturally he will be targeted. In the falling star continent, the most important thing was martial arts resources. Money could buy these things. So many martial artists would take the risk to rob the rich. Is the Tang clan's second young master sitting in the carriage? The leading masked man said. However, he muttered in his heart. According to the intelligence, the Tang clan's direct descendant did not bring many people to southwest Yangzhou. How could there be so many now? That's right. Tang Ren said. This humble one is Tang Ren. What can I do for you? The leading masked man said. My master wants to talk business with young Master Tang. He sent me to invite you. Sorry, Tang Ren said. This Tang has to go to southwest Yangzhou to inspect the work. I don't have time for now. These black-clothed men blocking the road were much more sinister than Jun Changxiao's disciples. If he really went with them, he would definitely not be able to return. Young Master Tang, the masked man said in a cold voice. Please don't make things difficult for this old man. Tang Ren said. Please report to your master that if he wants to do business, he can come to my Tang family to discuss it. AI. The masked man raised his hand and said. Since young Master Tang is so uncooperative, don't blame this old man for being rude. Shua. Shua. Nearly 100 black-clothed men rushed over from the front and back. Their powerful auras exploded, causing the official road to become extremely oppressive. The faces of the Tang family's martial kings turned ugly. There were a few high-level martial kings with strong auras in this group. It would be difficult for him to fight against them alone, especially the leader of the black-clothed men. Judging from his aura, he had probably reached the level of Wu Huang. To send such a group of people to kidnap young master, it must be a very powerful force. Haha, the opportunity was here. Jun Changxiao leaped up and landed on the roof of the carriage. He stood with his hands behind his back and said, How dare you rob us in broad daylight? Is there any law in this world? This action, this behavior, it was super handsome. The corners of the disciples' mouths twitched. Huff, a terrifying aura exploded from Jun Patriarch's body and spread in all directions like a flood. Nearly 100 black-clothed and masked men were affected and stopped in their tracks, as if they had turned into wood. Wu Huang! The leader of the black-clothed men exclaimed. Tang Ren thought to himself, what a powerful qi domain! There were martial emperors in the family, but to release such a powerful qi domain, they had to be at least 6th stage or above. Jun Patriarch was young, but his cultivation was so profound. It was no wonder that he could turn a mediocre sect into a top 3 sect in such a short time. This time, he came to pay a visit. That's right. Huff, the majestic qi domain pressed down like a dark cloud. The leader of the black-clothed men wanted to escape, but it was too late. He was completely enveloped, and his body gradually stiffened. In the end, he couldn't move at all. He was a 2nd stage Wu Huang, but in front of Jun Changxiao, he couldn't even withstand his qi domain, let alone fight. Who is this? Why didn't the intelligence report mention this? Seal their meridians for this seat. Jun Changxiao said coldly. With his previous experience, He was worried that these black-clothed men would use escape techniques to escape, so he had been using his strongest chi domain to suppress them. Yes, Li Qingyang and the others flew out. However, when they were about to approach the group of black-clothed men, they saw their bodies expanding rapidly. Oh no! Boom! 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 In an instant, the sound of continuous explosions came from the official road, and gusts of fierce wind swept up. When everything dissipated, Xiao Ziji opened his hands and a materialized earth element wall stood around him, successfully blocking the impact of the explosion for his fellow sect members. Patriarch, Li Qingyang said, they self-destructed. Damn it! Jun Changxiao was furious. Then, he locked his spiritual thoughts on the leader of the black-clothed men. Although the other party was wearing a mask, and it was difficult to see his face, intuition told him that this guy should be laughing ferociously and preparing to self-destruct. As expected, the black-clothed men's bodies expanded rapidly, shining with dazzling light. Boom! The earth shook and the wind howled. The self-destruction of an emperor was so powerful that the vegetation and rocks within a radius of 10,000 feet were instantly crushed into powder. However, the 4 carriages were safe and sound, because when the explosion was about to happen, Jun Changxiao had already condensed a defensive chi wall in advance to protect everyone. Whoosh! The wind gradually weakened, and a deep pit was blown out on the official road in front. Damn it! Jun Changxiao removed the defensive chi wall and cursed angrily. He thought that by capturing these black-clothed men, he could follow the clues to find the hidden forces. He didn't expect that they would self-destruct. The principle of self-destruction was to communicate with the spirit core through the soul and ignite the energy in an instant, causing destructive power that was far higher than one's cultivation. The consequences were also very serious. One's soul would be destroyed. Jun Changxiao could use his chi domain to suppress their movements, but he couldn't suppress their souls. So, he could only watch them self-destruct. Of course, he was too careless. If he had taken action as soon as possible and knocked the black-clothed man unconscious, he wouldn't have had the chance to self-destruct. Sigh! Jun Changxiao shook his head. And what made him break down the most was, if you guys want to self-destruct, then self-destruct. At least throw out your spatial rings, and let me and my disciples loot them. Now, not even a piece of cloth was left after the explosion. Tang Ren jumped down from the carriage, looked at the deep pit and said, Jun Patriarch, who are they? How could they self-destruct without hesitation? This kind of self-destruction, without absolute courage, it was difficult to do. It might be the Darkness Sect. Jun Changxiao said. Darkness Sect. Tang Ren frowned. This kind of hidden force rarely appears in the secular world. Why would they come to rob this Tang? You're asking me? Who am I asking? Young Master Tang. Jun Changxiao said solemnly. It's not good to stay here for long. Please follow me back to the sect. All right. They set off again. A few hours later, the group entered the sect of all times. Jun Patriarch. In the main hall, Tang Ren sat down and cupped his hands gratefully. Thank you for your help. Otherwise, this Tang would have been in deep trouble. Since you and I are doing business, then we are friends. When a friend is in trouble, Jun should help. Jun Changxiao said. Although he said that, he was thanking the Darkness Sect that suddenly appeared. They allowed him to help and form a good relationship. At least it wouldn't be so awkward. Chapter 688. When Jun Changxiao returned to the sect of all times, he was still thinking about the group of black-clothed masked men who kidnapped Tang Ren. One thing was certain, this group of warriors was definitely not the same group of people that had appeared before, because they did not recognize him. Why did he guess so? Because Jun Changxiao had dealt with them many times, and the other party had always suffered losses. If it was the same group of people, they would have recognized him long ago and fled long ago, instead of foolishly continuing to kidnap young Master Tang. Every time, there's Wu Huang. Just how strong is this Darkness Sect? Jun Changxiao muttered. What he found the most difficult to understand was, after being suppressed by him, that group of black-clothed masked men actually self-destructed without hesitation. If it was Wuzong or martial master level, it would be understandable. But those were emperor level and king level. How long did they cultivate to grow up? They self-destructed just like that. They didn't take their lives seriously at all. Or had they undergone strict training like an assassin? They knew that they couldn't escape, but they were afraid of revealing the secret through torture. So they could only end their lives with death? If that was the case, that was truly a group of extreme lunatics. For him and the sect to be targeted by such a darkness sect, it would be even more troublesome. Sigh. Jun Changshao rubbed his temples and said, so annoying. Even when facing two third-rate evil sects, he didn't feel so much pressure. Only the darkness sect that he had no clue about made him feel helpless. Jun Patriarch. Tang Ren asked. What are you thinking about? Air. Jun Changshao came back to his senses and said, Young Master Tang, let's talk about business. Sure. Tang Ren nodded. Shua. Jun Changshao took out a beginner-grade qi gathering pill and said, Young Master Tang, this is a pill refined by my sect of all times. After consuming it, it can increase the speed of spirit energy absorption by 10 times, and it lasts for 4 hours. Tang Ren's eyes widened. He had never heard of a pill that could increase the absorption of spirit energy by 10 times. Jun Patriarch. Tang Ren said, Are you joking? Jun Changshao waved his hand and said, If young Master Tang doesn't believe me, you can try. This. Tang Ren fell silent. Jun Changshao said, Jun sincerely wants to do business with young Master Tang. If there's no trust between us, then it's meaningless. That's true. Tang Ren swallowed the medicinal pill without hesitation. He didn't think that the patriarch of the sect of all times would poison the pills, because it was too cheap. Ho, the pill melted as soon as it entered his mouth. After a short while, a gurgling energy spread throughout his body, incessantly stimulating his meridians and every inch of his skin and pores. Tang Ren circulated his mental cultivation method and instantly felt the heaven and earth attributes that had gathered in the hall gushing in like a tidal wave. The speed was at least 10 times faster than usual. This pill could really speed up the absorption of spiritual energy. At that moment, the Tang family's second young master's mind was shaken, and his eyes suddenly lit up. If such a powerful pill were to be sold on the Falling Star continent, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. Business opportunity. Huge business opportunity. The experienced and knowledgeable Tang Ren finally couldn't help but exclaim, Unbelievable, unbelievable. Jun Changshao said, Young Master Tang, if this pill is consumed by the meridian opening stage, martial disciple and martial master stage, the absorption of spiritual energy would only be better. Although the beginner-grade qi gathering pill didn't have a cultivation level restriction, it was confirmed through practical tests that the higher the cultivation level, the lower the efficiency and absorption time. For Wuzong and martial king stage cultivators, the best choice was to consume intermediate-grade qi gathering pills, or even higher. Jun Changshao wouldn't consider selling intermediate-grade qi gathering pills, because the sect's disciples were already running out. How could they have extra to sell? Tang Ren gradually calmed down and said, To be able to refine such a powerful pill, your sect should have a master with extremely high attainments in alchemy, right? Jun Changshao smiled but didn't say anything. Tang Ren said again, If I'm not wrong, the pills sold by the AI family should also be from your sect, right? That's right. Jun Changshao didn't deny it. They were both smart people, so there was no need to be secretive. Moreover, letting the Tang family's second young master understand some things would make it easier to establish a business relationship. Right now Jun Changshao wanted to show his advantages. If the other party was a qualified businessman, they would definitely take the initiative to cooperate. No wonder. The confusion in Tang Ren's heart was solved. The originally ordinary AI family of Huyang City suddenly had 2 miraculous pills, and it turned out that they were provided by the sect of all times. Jun Patriarch had his disciple stop him and pretended to save him. He probably wanted to get closer to him and find a more reliable business partner. This Tang family's second young master was really smart. He guessed Jun Changshao's previous goal. Jun Patriarch. Tang Ren asked, How many pills do you have? Jun Changshao tapped his finger on the table for a while and smiled. Young Master Tang, You can have as many as you want. These words were very flirtatious. The beginner-grade qi-gathering pill didn't need high-level ingredients, and were easy to find. It could be refined 24 hours a day. 100,000 pills? Yes. In terms of price. Jun Changxiao said, the pills will be provided by the Sect of all times. Young Master Tang will be responsible for providing the sales channels and pricing. After that, we will split the profits 50-50. There was no need to split it 30-70 or 40-60. Just do it. Okay. Tang Ren said. This kind of pill could absorb 10 times the spiritual energy. Once it was on the market, it would definitely make martial artists go crazy. At that time, it wouldn't be difficult to sell one pill at the price of a man-made spirit stone. Young Master Tang, Jun Changxiao took out another pill and said, this is a healing pill developed by my sect. After taking it, you can quickly recover from your injuries. Tang Ren said, the one sold by the AI family? Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, the one sold by the AI family is only the low-level version. It is suitable for the meridian opening and martial disciple levels. This healing pill is the high-level version. It can treat martial master and wuzong levels. Is that so? Tang Ren was shocked. His eyes lit up again. I also have a detoxification pill here. It can cure hundreds of poisons. Jun Changxiao said again. Cure hundreds of poisons? Tang Ren was stunned. Detoxification pills were very common in the market. Most of them only cured one kind of poison. He had never heard of one that could cure hundreds of poisons. The Tang family's second young master, who had experienced many things in the business world, suddenly felt as if he was ignorant and inexperienced when faced with the various pills that Jun Changxiao had taken out. Jun Patriarch. Tang Ren said, what other good things do you have? Please take them out and let me see. Pa. Jun Changxiao put the cold-edged sword on the table and said, young Master Tang, please evaluate this sword. Swoosh. Tang Ren held it in his hand, and immediately felt a faint cold air from the scabbard. Clang. Pulling the sword out of the scabbard, the cold air spread out. Tang Ren held the sword in front of him. 2 fingers lightly touched the blade and exclaimed, good sword. He had seen many weapons at home. Just from the feel and touch, he guessed that the cold-edged sword must be at the mid-upper level. Especially the workmanship, it was impeccable. Jun Patriarch. Tang Ren said seriously, I'm afraid that even Master Fan might not be able to forge such a perfect sword. Master Fan was a legend in the smithing world of the Falling Star continent. Every weapon he forged was treated like a treasure. For him to give the cold-edged sword such an evaluation, it was very high. Jun Changxiao said, young Master Tang, there is something that Jun needs to say first. Please speak. Tang Ren said, if you and I cooperate, please keep the origin of the pills and weapons a secret. This was to continue the cooperation with the AI family, and not let the world know that the pills and weapons came from the Sect of all times. Tang Ren understood Jun Changxiao's meaning, so he said seriously, Jun Patriarch, please rest assured that this Tang will not tell anyone about the cooperation. Good. Jun Changxiao said, I will give you the rights to sell 3 pills and 1 weapon. I hope that you and I can cooperate happily and create a win-win situation. Both sides took paper and drafted a cooperation agreement. Jun Patriarch. After signing, Tang Ren cupped his hands and said, this Tang came to visit the Sect of all times. This Tang did not make a wasted trip. Chapter 689. Although Tang Ren was young, he had been in business for many years. However, the pills and weapons that Jun Changxiao took out shocked him deeply, because he had never seen or heard of them before. Pills that could increase absorption speed by 10 times, pills that could instantly heal martial artists' injuries, pills that could neutralize hundreds of poisons, and that impeccable sword. Any one of these 4 items could cause a sensation if sold. Tang Ren, who was temporarily staying in the Sect of all times, thought about it in his room for an entire night. The more he thought, the harder it was to suppress his excitement. There was no denying it. The Tang family was a huge business empire. However, they mainly dealt with spirit stones. Although they were involved in other industries, they were unable to open up a bigger market. It could be said that Spirit stones made the Tang family but also limited it. In these years, the family's upper echelons had been discussing how to expand other industries. Unfortunately, the popular pills and weapons industries had already stabilized. It would be difficult to get a share of the profits from other families. If June Patriarch's pills and weapons can be mass-produced and sold, it will definitely be a huge business opportunity. Tang Ren's eyes were burning. Once the 3 pills entered the market, it would definitely increase the family's prestige in the pill industry and bring in huge profits. As for the weapons, Tang Ren did not think highly of them. After all, even Master Fan had not made many perfect weapons in his life. If I can open up the market with these 3 pills and obtain profits that are not inferior to spirit stones, it will undoubtedly provide me with a bigger opportunity. What opportunity? Obtain the favor of the Tang family's old master and inherit the position of the next family head. Tang Ren was a talented and ambitious person. He would definitely not be a direct descendant of the Tang family. Instead, he wanted to be the head of the Tang family to better display his greater ambitions. However, in the family his seniority and age were too young. Although he was also one of the successors, he could not compete with his more well-connected and experienced uncles and cousins. If Jun Changxiao's 3 pills brought in more profits, the Tang family would be able to open up the pill market that they had always been involved in, but could not expand. Tang Ren's importance in the Tang family's old master's heart would definitely increase greatly. I came to southwest Yangzhou just to make friends with Jun Patriarch. I did not expect such a huge gain. Tang Ren said excitedly. When the Sect of all times challenged the Sacred Spring Sect as a 7th or 8th-rate sect, he received the news and became interested. Thus, he began to collect all kinds of information about this sect. Exterminating the evil faction, ranking in the top 3, battling the extreme cold palace, and even leading disciples to challenge the entire eastern Haozhou. When Tang Ren heard about this, he was even more certain that the Sect of all times had limitless potential. Of course, the Tang family had also heard of this sect. However, while they were still discussing and questioning, Tang Ren came to visit them under the pretext of inspecting their work, in order to increase his network. In the end, Tang Ren taking the initiative to visit Jun Changxiao was a chess piece for him, to become the head of the family in the future. As for whether or not he could help, he didn't know. But he had to go out to prevent his uncles and cousins from getting ahead of him. In terms of political resources, he was far behind his fellow clansmen. The large sects of the Middle Sovereign State had also formed their own teams. They could only start with the newly established sects from the other provinces. The Sect of all times was just one of them. Next, Tang Ren would visit sects with potential one after another, hoping to build a good relationship with them and establish his own network. He didn't expect Jun Changxiao to take the initiative to do business. And it was even a pill business. An opportunity. An absolute opportunity. Whether or not he could increase his position in the old man's heart would be decided by the pill business with the Sect of all times. Young Master Tang. The next day Jun Changxiao said, "Are you used to living here?" Tang Ren smiled and said, "Your sect is full of spirit energy. Staying here for a night can be said to be refreshing." Swoosh. Jun Changxiao took out several spatial rings and said, "There are 100,000 qi-gathering pills, 10,000 healing pills, and 10,000 antidote pills in here." He still had more pills, but he didn't take them out at once. The main thing was to consider whether the other party had the ability to maximize profits and sell them. Tang Ren smiled and said, "This Tang promises that I can sell them all within a month and bring great profits to Jun Patriarch." Swoosh. Jun Changxiao took out a few more spatial rings and said, "There are 1,000 cold-edged swords in here." Tang Ren's expression froze, and then he hurriedly took it. His spiritual sense entered it, and when he saw the neatly arranged 1,000 cold-edged swords, he almost couldn't stabilize his body and stood up directly. He actually took out 1,000 of these swords at once. What was even more terrifying was that from the outside, the workmanship of the 1,000 cold-edged swords was also extremely exquisite. Master Fan had never forged weapons to such an extent in his entire life. The products of the forging pavilion were definitely of high quality. Not to mention, these 1,000 cold-edged swords were all eliminated goods, because many disciples of the sect of all times had already used the cold light sword, or even the higher-level true yang sword. Jun Patriarch. Tang Ren said solemnly, "Your sect's forging standard, even Master Fan would be ashamed." Jun Changshao said, "Leave these pills and weapons to young Master Tang. I will wait for the good news." Tang Ren took out a token and said with a smile, "This is my Tang family's VIP token. In the future, if Jun Patriarch needs to buy spirit stones, you can take it out. You will definitely be treated as a VIP." Jun Changshao took it and threw it into the spatial ring. The two of them chatted for a while more before Tang Ren got up and left. After getting the pills and weapons, the next step was to consider how to sell them as soon as possible. Jun Changshao personally sent him to the mountain gate and ordered evil Saint Wuxia to protect him secretly to prevent him from being kidnapped by the Darkness Sect. Patriarch. Li Luochio said, "I just received news that second young Master Tang's status among the many successors of the Tang family is not too high." So, Jun Changshao touched his chin and said, "There's a reason why he took the initiative to visit the sect of all times." He could guess a thing or two about this reason. One needed to do business to earn more money, while the other needed to build connections to earn more political resources. Now that they had reached a cooperation, it was quite fated. However, whether the two of them could obtain what they needed by working together still had to be proven. After Tang Ren left the sect of all times, he did not go to the southwest Yangzhou Spirit Stone shop, and directly returned to the Middle Supreme State to start preparing to sell the pills. This guy was also very bold. After returning, after careful consideration, he decided to invest his own money and open pill shops in the various counties of the Middle Supreme State. Although the Tang family had a pill business, it was not perfect. Tang Ren did this to let the pill shops open up everywhere, and then promote the pills to the outside world, so that every shop would have 3 types of pills to sell. Of course, he could not sell them all and limited the number of pills he could buy first. This method was similar to the monthly auction of pills. Although he could not earn enough profits in a short time, he could make the pills more valuable when they were rare. There were many counties in the Middle Supreme State. If he wanted to expand all of them, he would need a lot of money. Tang Ren did not care. At this time, he had to break the shackles and roll up his sleeves to gamble. Chapter 690. Second brother wants to sell pills? And he plans to open pill shops in the various counties of the Central Sovereign State? It's not like our Tang family hasn't done pill business before, but we can't compete with the family that specializes in pill business in terms of resources. Didn't it still end in failure? Too reckless, too reckless. Tang Ren was preparing to vigorously develop the family's pill market. When the direct descendants of the family found out, it immediately caused a storm of discussion. They would not deny the ability of the second-ranked direct descendant of the third generation in business, but suddenly entering the field of pills that were not specialized in, there would definitely be losses. After the upper echelons of the Tang family found out, they also expressed that they were not optimistic. This matter alarmed the Tang family's old master, who specially called Tang Ren over. "Renner." In the antique study room, the old Tang family's patriarch drank a mouthful of tea and said, "Why are you suddenly spending so much money to develop the pill industry?" "Grandfather," Tang Ren said, "my Tang family has been in the spirit stone business all these years. Although we have obtained enough profits, if we want to have a higher breakthrough, we must step into other industries and have more weight." The Tang family's old master's turbid eyes were filled with gratification. The entire family had almost monopolized the spirit stone industry, and their wealth was accumulating more and more. However, if they wanted to develop in the long run, they still needed to be balanced and not extreme. At the very least, if one day, a family that focused on spirit stones rose up and quickly occupied the market, the Tang family would definitely suffer a heavy blow. Because the other industries did not have any power to resist, they might fall from their peak to decline. "Renner," the Tang family's old master said. "Are you confident?" Tang Ren said with a firm gaze. "Grandfather, Grandson is confident that I can create a world in the pill industry. The Tang family's old master was rather gratified. Young people should be bold and innovative, not stick to the rules. Grandfather supports you, go ahead and do it. Tang Ren's confidence increased greatly. Of course, he knew that his grandfather was testing him. If he did well in the pill industry, he would be able to gain his favor. If he messed up, he would definitely fall out of line in the fight for the position of patriarch. Second brother. Just as he walked out of the study, a handsome man stopped Tang Ren. This was the eldest son of the Tang family's third generation, Tang Li. Big brother. Tang Ren cupped his hands. Among his peers, the most prestigious was undoubtedly Tang Li. The two were cousins and also competitors for the family's inheritance. Their relationship was a little tense. Second brother. Tang Li smiled and said, I heard you just went to the southwest Yangzhou. Okay, Tang Ren said. Tang Li said, it's such a small place. You can just send the steward over. Why do you need to go personally? Grandpa always said that we shouldn't discriminate when doing business. Even if the overall strength of southwest Yangzhou is not good, there is still the business of our Tang family. Naturally, we can't slack off. Tang Ren smiled. Tang Li smiled and said, second brother probably went to visit the sect of all times. Tang Ren remained silent. As expected, this eldest cousin brother of his knew everything about him like the back of his hand. Our Tang family has been doing business for generations. We don't focus on martial arts, but our overall strength isn't inferior to the first or second class. Second brother, it's really beneath your dignity to personally visit the sect of all times. Tang Li smiled. Tang Ren knew that his eldest cousin brother had befriended many large sects in the central sovereign state and looked down on sects in the outer counties. So he didn't say anything else and turned to leave. Second brother. Behind him, Tang Li said with a benevolent expression, I also considered sending people to befriend the sect of all times. But since you went first, it doesn't matter if I give it to you. Tang Ren stopped and said, in that case, I still have to thank Big Brother? We're all family. You're treating me like an outsider. However, he paused and smiled. Befriending these sects in the outer counties is completely meaningless. If second brother wants to have enough power to speak in the family, you still have to befriend the large sects in the central sovereign state. These words hit Tang Ren's sore spot. How could he not want to go to the large sects in the central sovereign state? But weren't you the ones who beat him to it? He could only settle for the next best thing, which was to befriend the large sects in the outer counties with great potential and use them as his political capital. Thank you for your advice, Big Brother. Tang Ren thought to himself. It's all thanks to you giving me the sect of all times as if you're giving it to me. Otherwise, how could I have formed a partnership with June Patriarch? How could he casually take out such a powerful medicinal pill? This made him believe that the sect of all times had great potential. As long as he befriended them, his strength would increase in the future, and he would definitely benefit greatly. No, not in the future. Obtaining the dealership of the 3 types of pills and weapons would be immediately profitable. Unfortunately, Big Brother and the other direct descendants of the family were too narrow-minded. They also looked down on the sects in the outer counties and gave this opportunity to him. That was indeed the case. The direct descendants of the Tang family must have known about the sect of all times long ago. Because it came from the remote southwest Yangzhou, no one would take it seriously. If they took this sect seriously, even if they sent their subordinates to befriend them, June Patriarch just so happened to lack business partners. No matter who came, they would have a chance to form a business agreement. Big Brother, fellow clansmen, thank you very much. You look down on the sect of all times, allowing me to form a relationship with it. With the support of the Tang family's old master, Tang Ren became even more proactive. In just a few days, he opened dozens of pill shops in the Zhongyuan State's county city. The Tang family has been frequently purchasing shops in various cities and opening Tangji pill shops. Looks like they are going to make a big move. In terms of pills, the Sun family has almost monopolized the Zhongyuan State's market. It will be very difficult for the Tang family to get a share. As the Tang family's pill shops were set up one after another, The Zhongyuan state cultivators were also fighting to discuss it. Rich families liked to mess around, and they were just here to watch the fun. Tang Ren's big move alarmed the Sun family, which mainly focused on pills. They even discussed it separately during the regular meeting. The Tang family is not guarding their spirit stone business properly, and is starting to cause trouble again. A few years ago, they also dabbled in pills, but in the end they still closed down. In terms of wealth, the Sun family may not be as rich as the Tang family, but different professions are worlds apart. It is impossible for them to snatch food from us. The Sun family's higher-ups scoffed at the Tang family's opening of pill shops. However, in the next few days, a piece of news reached their ears, and their eyes widened completely. The content of the news was the Tang family's pill shop will officially open on the 8th of this month, and grandly launch a few new pills. They are pills that can increase the speed of spirit energy absorption, pills that can quickly heal injuries, and pills that can cure hundreds of poisons. I have never heard of this kind of pill. It must be a gimmick to build momentum for the opening. The Sun family's higher-ups calmed down, and did not take this matter seriously. Whether a pill was good or not was not based on bragging, but on the effect and quality. After the opening, it would be verified by the public, and everything would be clear. The 3 types of pills sold by the Tang family's pill shop quickly spread throughout the Zhongyuan state. From high-level cultivators to ordinary people, everyone knew about it. For a time, everyone in the state was discussing it, causing a huge sensation. Of course, many people had doubts. After all, just the qi-gathering pill that could increase the speed of spirit energy absorption by 10 times was already exaggerated enough. Patriarch. In the Eternal Sect, Li Luoqiu came to report. Young Master Tang has set up 56 elixir stores in the central prefecture, and they will open for business on the 8th day of the new year. 3 kinds of elixirs have also been spread out, causing quite a stir. TSK. Jun Changshao sighed. In such a short time, he actually set up 56 pill shops. The Tang family is indeed rich. Li Luoqiu said. The Tang family's second young master sent an invitation, hoping that Patriarch can attend the opening ceremony. Not interested, Jun Changshao said. The pills were handed over to Tang Ren, and he was fully in charge of operating them. He was only responsible for collecting money. Not to mention, the 3-month time limit was approaching. He still had to take his disciples to challenge the normal difficulty of the life and death secret realm. So he had no time to go to the Zhongyuan state to act cool. Chapter 691. A few days later, 56 elixir stores opened. There were quite a few families who came to congratulate them. After all, it was opened by the Tang family, so they had to come and support them. Of course, more people wanted to see if the 3 elixirs that were about to be sold were as magical as advertised. Everyone. Standing outside the elixir store, Tang Ren said in a clear voice, "Welcome everyone to support us. To express our gratitude, my store has prepared 1,000 qi-gathering pills today, each priced at 5,000 taels. There are not many first-come first-serve. Young Master Tang, does the qi-gathering pill really have such a magical effect?" Someone asked. Tang Ren said, "My Tang family has been doing business for generations, and has always prioritized reputation. We will not treat reputation as a joke." Many martial artists were relieved. Indeed, as one of the top business empires in the continent, there was no doubt about their reputation. If they dared to exaggerate or falsely advertise the elixir, they would definitely be shooting themselves in the foot. Young Master Tang, an elder of a large family, said, "This old man will buy 2 to try. Please come in." Tang Ren cupped his hands and said. Therefore, many warriors entered the shop one after another. A few thousand taels was not much. If the qi-gathering pill really had a miraculous effect, even if it was more expensive, they would not care. The family elder who entered first bought 2 qi-gathering pills, then took out one and consumed it. When the effect was completely activated, he was stunned on the spot. "Elder Tian, how is it?" someone asked. Shua. Elder Tian did not care about his status. He immediately sat cross-legged in the store, and continued to circulate his mental cultivation, method to absorb the surrounding heaven and earth attributes. Hoo-hoo! In an instant, the surrounding heaven and earth spirit energy was mobilized and poured into his body like a tsunami. Although the warriors in the store did not know if the elder had benefited, they could clearly feel the subtle movement caused by the flow of spirit energy. Thus they all secretly said, "Is it really effective? Let me try." Another family warrior swallowed the chi-gathering pill that he had just bought and waited for the medicinal effect to take effect. He was too lazy to care about other people's questions and sat cross-legged on the spot to circulate his mental cultivation method. Young Master Tang said that the effect of the elixir would last for 4 hours. After he and Elder Tian confirmed that it was 10 times faster to absorb spirit energy, they naturally did not want to waste a single second. The other warriors were not fools. They could naturally read something from their expressions and spent 5,000 taels to buy the chi-gathering pill. As a result, in a medicinal store that couldn't be considered large, dozens of martial artists were sitting on the floor, circulating their cultivation methods to absorb spiritual energy. Tang Ren smiled but said nothing. Everything was within his expectations. 4 hours later, the medicinal pill's effects dissipated. Elder Tian stood up abruptly and hurriedly said, "Young Master Tang, this old man wants all of the remaining chi-amassing pills in your shop." "I'm sorry." Tang Ren shook his head and said, "When the new store opens, each customer is limited to 2 chi-amassing pills. If Elder Tian needs anything, please come early tomorrow." One chi-gathering pill was worth 5,000 taels, but that was only for him. Once the effects of the pill were verified by everyone, the price would naturally rise accordingly. AI. Elder Tian sighed. Consuming a spirit-amassing pill could increase one's spiritual energy absorption rate by 10 times for 4 hours. If one were to consume 6 spirit-amassing pills every day, 1 year of cultivation would be equivalent to 10 years of cultivation. This was extremely terrifying. Elder Tian. Tang Ren smiled and said, "Our store also has healing pills and antidote pills. Are you interested in buying them?" "What's the price?" Elder Tian asked. He had already witnessed the miraculous effects of the chi-gathering pill. As for the other 2 pills, he naturally believed in them without a doubt. Tang Ren said, 2 million taels for healing pills and 500,000 taels for antidote pills. Elder Tian said in shock, "So expensive?" "Our store's healing pills can instantly heal injuries. It's equivalent to giving a martial artist an extra life. 2 million taels is not expensive," Tang Ren said. To be honest, it was not expensive. The lowest price of the beginner healing pills sold by the AI family was 1 million taels. The higher grade ones were 2 million taels. It was really cheap. This old man needs to consider. Elder Tian did not plan to buy it, mainly because he had doubts about the effects of the pills. Tang Ren also knew that if he wanted customers to willingly buy it, he had to prove the effects of the pills. Hence, he went to a few large families that had been injured all year round. When Song Xianzhou went out to train, he was injured by a ferocious beast and was paralyzed for many years. This kind of thing was very common in the Falling Star continent. After all, as a martial artist, no one could guarantee that they would not be injured for the rest of their lives. Tang Ren visited the families with injured people one by one, and only sold the healing pills at the cheapest price. I'm standing up. In a large family, a direct descendant who was paralyzed in bed all year round stood up shakily. His eyes were shining with tears and ecstasy. The other injured martial artists took the healing pills one after another and recovered. In just half a day, news about the effects of the healing pills spread through the entire Middle Venerable province. It spread so quickly that people gasped in amazement. The Tang family's influence in the Falling Star continent was not something the AI family could compare with. Hence, many families and forces were convinced after a little confirmation of the reliability of the news. Of course, Tang Ren was still promoting the antidote pills. He even personally went to the battlefield and deliberately let the snake beasts that contain many kinds of toxins bite him, and then took the antidote pills to heal him. After taking multiple chi-gathering pills, serious injuries could be healed instantly. The healing pills could cure all kinds of poison. Once the 3 pills were on the market and were approved by the public, it caused a sensation that could be described as a 12-magnitude earthquake. In just a few days, the 56 elixir stores in the Zhongzuan state were already filled with people waiting to buy the pills before they opened. The powerful large families were definitely going for the qi-gathering pills. Itinerant cultivators went for the healing pills and antidote pills because they went out to train all year round. These things could undoubtedly save their lives at critical moments. After a few days of opening, the business of the Tang family elixir store was extremely good. The prices of the 3 pills rose, especially the qi-gathering pills, which had already reached 10,000 taels for 1 pill, the same as spirit stones. Some people would ask, why not buy spirit stones directly? Theoretically speaking, spirit stones were more cost-effective, as they provided more energy. But the point was that after taking the qi-gathering pills, one could continue to use spirit stones. There was no conflict between the two. Ordinary martial artists might not be so extravagant, but they could not resist the wealthy large families, especially if they wanted to nurture the younger generation to break through faster. Taking the qi-gathering pills and absorbing spirit stones would definitely be more obvious. Hence, even though the price of the qi-gathering pills was equivalent to spirit stones, it still could not stop the enthusiasm of the large families. They did not hesitate to line up early, just to be able to buy more. To put it bluntly, they were using money to smash their cultivation. The 3 pills launched by the Tang family elixir store were selling like hotcakes. The Sun family, which mainly dealt in elixir stores, was dumbfounded. According to the financial statistics, their family's elixir sales for the past half a month were obviously declining. It was mainly because the elixir store opened by Tang Ren sold the most common elixirs on the market. Under the influence of the 3 pills, many martial artists would choose to buy the elixirs they needed in the store nearby. Unknowingly, they had stolen many customers from the Sun family. Chapter 692. The Tang family was also shocked by the booming business of the Tang family. Those direct descendants and upper echelons of the family, who did not think highly of Tang Ren and thought that he was burning money, were all slapped in the face. When old Master Tang heard about it, he couldn't stop smiling. His grandson had opened up the pill market in such a short period of time, and had even snatched away a lot of customers from the Sun family. This was something that he did not expect. Of course, he was also very curious. Where did the 3 pills come from? Grandfather, Tang Ren said. These 3 pills were given to me by a master of alchemy that I met when I was traveling around the world. Oh, old Master Tang replied. He naturally knew that this was just an excuse, and did not intend to tell him the whole story. Renner, old Master Tang suppressed his voice and said, this is your own business secret. You must protect it well, lest it be snatched away by someone with ulterior motives. The 2nd and 3rd generations of direct descendants all had their own businesses. As long as it could bring benefits to the family, he would not interfere. In other words, since Tang Ren had obtained 3 types of pills, that was his ability. As for how far he could develop it in the future, it would depend on his own ability. Grandfather, are you reminding me to be on guard against my own clan? Or do I have to guard against my business opponents? After leaving the study, Tang Ren kept thinking about the old man's words. Sect of all times. Li Luoqiu reported as usual. In the past half a month, the Tang family pill store has gradually opened up the market, and the sales of the pills are extremely hot. Is that so? Jun Changshao smiled. He was not surprised, because the 3 types of pills could bring unimaginable benefits to warriors. Not to mention the Tang family. Even if they were given to the AI family to sell, they would still be able to make a lot of money. It was just that the business of the Tang family pill store was booming, and the sales volume had also soared. Jun Patriarch had to wait for the money, and secondly, he had to hurry up and prepare the supplies. It was a bit troublesome for him to refine these himself. If there was a function that could allow disciples to refine pills, then it would be perfect. Jun Changshao muttered. The system was speechless. This also needs a disciple to do. The host might as well give up the patriarch and travel around by himself. Do you think I don't want to? Lord Changsha roared in his heart. But those damned soul bombs are decreasing with every passing moment. Next, he ordered the members of the medicine hall to plant more medicinal herbs for refining qi-gathering pills. Moreover, he didn't care about the degree of spiritual energy, and he wanted to refine the pills as soon as possible. Carefully nurtured herbs could refine pills that were 15 times more effective. If the refining cycle was shortened, the effects would also be reduced. As long as he could reach 10 times the standard, he would definitely be as fast as possible. Jun Changshao also informed the AI clan to prepare more ready-made medicinal herbs. This guy was also wicked. He left the 15 times multiplier qi-gathering pills for the disciples, and the 10 times multiplier qi-gathering pills refined from ordinary herbs for sale. Sigh. In the sect of all times, only disciples who had just entered the sect would take the beginner-grade qi-gathering pill. Yet it was so popular in the middle supreme state. It was a little funny. The next day, after finishing his morning exercises, Jun Changshao stood in front of the entrance of the life and death secret realm. A cool breeze blew past, blowing away the slightly messy black hair, revealing a valiant and extraordinary face. Next to them, 1 Black and 2 Black were waving their big fans with all their might. The 3-month cooldown of the life and death secret realm was over. Jun Patriarch was going to take his disciples to the normal difficulty today. Ta! Hundreds of disciples strode over, standing behind the Patriarch with their hands behind their backs. Lu Qianqian, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, Yi Xingchen, and other inner disciples were all present. The atmosphere at the back of the mountain was slightly solemn. Middle-rank 6 spirit beasts appeared in the easy mode. Jun Changshao had to take the normal mode seriously this time. Sects of the same level, or even higher level, could no longer threaten the sect of all times. They could only go to the new secret realm to find excitement. Sigh. It was so lonely to be invincible, so empty to be invincible. Let's go. Jun Changshao said loudly. Shwa, shwa, shwa. The disciples entered the life and death secret realm in an orderly manner. After entering the illusory environment, Jun Changshao chose the normal mode without hesitation. Buzz. Everyone instantly entered the eerie and dark place. Goo, a strange sound was heard. Streaks of red light flashed, as if they were the eyes of some kind of ferocious beast lurking in the darkness. Prepare for battle, Jun Changshao said. Clang, clang. The disciples took out their weapons one after another. These inner disciples were equipped with either the True Yang sword or the cloud-piercing blade, which were all obtained from the sect's missions. Puchi. At this moment, the red light in the darkness moved. When it was close, it could be seen that it was a group of red bats. These are middle rank 1 ferocious beasts, blood bats, Li Qingyang said. Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, an unparalleled sword chi flew past his ear, like fireworks blooming in the air, turning into tiny sword rays. Puchi! Hundreds of blood bats were all killed. Damn! Su Xiaoma looked at Zhou Hong in disbelief. With a slash of the sword, it turned into sword rays in the air. This was the first time he and his fellow disciples had seen such a move. Jun Changshao said to himself, "This disciple has become stronger." Boom! Boom! At this moment, Yi Xingchen, who was standing in front, gathered spiritual energy in his fists and punched the air again and again, turning the bats flying toward him into a bloody mist on the spot. Our Night Emperor had been in a bad mood recently, especially when he was tortured by a martial emperor sacred beast in hell mode. He doubted his life. This time, he was going all out. However, more and more blood bats rushed out from the darkness, seemingly endless. Kill! Su Xiaoma, Li Fei, and the rest held their swords and charged forward. In an instant, the disciples of the sect of all times fought with this group of blood bats. Jun Changshao also wanted to make a move, but in the end, he restrained himself. After all, they were only comparable to rank 1 martial masters. It was enough to leave it to the disciples. 10 minutes later, nearly 10,000 blood bats were destroyed. This was equivalent to 10,000 martial artists comparable to martial masters being wiped out by 100 disciples of the sect of all times in a very short time. If not for the fact that the ferocious beasts could fly, the speed of destruction would have been even faster. Roar! Suddenly, a roar came from the darkness, and a bat bigger than the black eagle of the Demon Ridge flew out slowly. The system said, Middle Rank 7 Bloodbat King. Huh. Jun Changshao was a little surprised. In the easy mode, there was a spiritual Earth Bear Beast King comparable to Rank 6 Wu Huang. In the normal mode, there was a Bloodbat King comparable to Rank 7 Wu Huang. However, it seemed that it was not difficult to upgrade by one rank. Roar! Another Bloodbat King flew out. It turned out that there were two spirit beasts comparable to Rank 7 Wu Huang in the first stage of the normal mode. This is troublesome. Li Qingyang frowned. Although the Bloodbat King was only one rank higher than the spiritual Earth Bear Beast King in the easy mode, it was a rare flying beast. Lu Qianqian also realized that the problem was a little serious, and subconsciously tightened her grip on Frostlight. On the other hand, Yi Xingchen could keep calm. After all, he had been bullied by a sacred beast comparable to a martial emperor in hell mode. Middle rank 7 spirit beasts were nothing to him. I'll leave the one on the left to you guys. Jun Changshao locked onto the Bloodbat King on the right and said, I'll take care of it. Yes. All the disciples used cloud-treading steps and rushed over. They spread out to a certain position and surrounded the Bloodbat King on the left. Swoosh! Swoosh! Xiao Ziji and Yang Yuhua took out their dark iron shields and placed them in front of them. After the main tank and secondary tank were in position, Yi Xingchen, Zhou Hong, and the other DPS disciples were also ready. If it was a one-on-one battle, the disciples of the sect of all times would definitely be tortured to death by the Bloodbat King. However, they might be able to defeat it in a group of 100. In the outside world, the disciples of the major sects were still cheering and jumping for joy after killing a lower rank 1 spirit beast. In the life and death secret realm, the disciples of the sect of all times had already started to challenge middle rank 7 spirit beasts. This was the difference between people. Chapter 693. The Bloodbat King, which was comparable to the 7th grade Wu Huang, was definitely much stronger than the Earth Spirit Bear Beast King. Therefore, it was another test for the disciples of the sect of all times. They were not afraid. Their eyes were filled with a strong desire to fight. They had been cultivating in the sect for so long. Although they could complete missions, they had never really given up. It was the same even when they challenged the Lily Holy Sect. Now that they were going to fight a high-level spirit beast, they had to be fired up. Men who cultivated martial arts had to fight. Of course, another more important reason was that the Earth Spirit Bear Beast King was created 3 months ago, and there were only 50 of them. Not to mention the growth during this period, there were 50 more disciples. It was not a big deal to fight a 7th grade spirit beast that could fly. Roar! The Bloodbat King roared angrily. Its body turned even redder, as if it had turned into a huge burning charcoal. Whoosh whoosh waves of hot air spread, causing the surrounding space to distort. Activate the spirit armor! Li Qingyang shouted. Eldest senior sister was a woman of few words. She could only be the commander to deal with this kind of spirit beast. Buzz! Buzz! All the disciples condensed solid armor in front of them. It happened to be redder in color. Looking down from the sky, the Bloodbat King was like the sun. The disciples of the sect of all times in front of it were like stars. Logically speaking, the sun's brilliance could not be matched by the stars. However, when the disciples of the sect of all times were ready for battle, their aura might not be weaker than that of a 7th grade spirit beast. Swoosh! A red beam of light suddenly exploded and hit the Bloodbat King's head. The person who cast it was Xiao Ziji. He did it to attract hatred. True enough, the Bloodbat King, who was attacked, locked its gaze on the human who attacked it. Its gloomy eyes flashed with anger. Poochie! Poochie! It flapped its wings and flames shot out like cannonballs. Shush! The muscles on Xiao Ziji's arms bulged. He immediately put up his iron shield and said with a burning gaze, Come on, come on! Bang! 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 The cannonball-like flames hit the shield accurately. Thud! 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 Xiao Ziji carried the shield and kept retreating. This spirit beast, which was comparable to 7th grade Wu Huang, was indeed powerful. Swoosh, swish. The Bloodbat King flapped its wings again and formed a second round of flame cannonballs. Shwa! Yang Yuhua strode over and placed her black iron shield in front of her, taking the second wave of damage for Xiao Ziji. Boom! 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 After a series of violent explosions, he also retreated far away. Judging from the fighting spirit on his face, there didn't seem to be any problems. Although Yang Yuhua couldn't compare to senior brother Xiao Ziji, her defense was still pretty good. Boom! An explosion came from the other side. June Patriarch was the first to attack. His fist, which was filled with violent spirit energy, hit the Bloodbat King's head. This punch was very powerful, and it sent his opponent flying dozens of feet away. Roar! After stabilizing its body, the Bloodbat King roared angrily. Then it flapped its wings and condensed an explosive fireball. Bang! Bang! Jun Changshao flew over and brandished his fists in the air, breaking all the incoming fireballs in a domineering manner. Then, he rushed to the front of the big guy and delivered another clean punch. Bang! His punch was like a stone falling into a lake, causing ripples to appear on the water surface. The space, which had been gradually distorting due to the scorching temperature, couldn't withstand the shock of the power and instantly cracked. The Bloodbat King was punched far away again. There was an obvious fist mark on its face, and there was pain in its eyes. Shwa! Jun Changshao flew over and gathered spirit energy in his fists. Then he performed landslide fist. Boom! 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 The fist mark was released, and spirit energy spread out. The entire space shook with the explosion of power. When it couldn't bear it anymore, it began to collapse. Boom! After a series of violent explosions, the Bloodbat King fell to the ground in a sorry state. It's really weak, Jun Changshao said. The disciples' mouths twitched. However, their eyes were filled with even stronger admiration. A spirit beast comparable to the 7th stage Wu Huang was trampled on like this. The Patriarch's strength was too terrifying. Since the battle with the Lily Holy Sect, Jun Changshao hadn't leveled up, but his strength as a 3rd stage sword and martial arts emperor was still very explosive. Come on, all of you! At this moment, Xiao Ziji's desperate shout was heard. When the Patriarch fought, he and Yang Yuhua took 2 waves of flame cannonballs head-on. Go! Li Qingyang shouted. He didn't mean to fight hand-to-hand. After all, they didn't have the explosive strength of the Patriarch. Once they got close, they would be killed. Red Sky Flame Cut. 7 Mystic Light Break. Whoosh! Whoosh! More than 90 disciples performed the 2 most powerful spirit energy-type martial arts techniques of the sect. For a moment, gorgeous flames and light beams exploded like fireworks. It was as if they were wishing readers a happy lantern festival in advance. Boom! Boom! All kinds of violent energy from all directions bombarded the Bloodbat King. It could break 1 chopstick, but it couldn't break 100 chopsticks. 1 chopstick wouldn't hurt, but 100 chopsticks could kill it. When the disciples of the same sect worked together, their sharpness could cut through metal. Boom! Boom! The explosive power bloomed from all directions. The destructive power was so strong that it directly blasted the Bloodbat King dozens of feet away. Roar! The big guy was furious. After stabilizing its body, it suddenly flapped its wings. Immediately, flame cannonballs shot out. There were so many of them that it could be said to be earth-shattering. Close in, Li Qingyang shouted. Shwa! Shwa! Facing the AoE skill released by the boss, Li Qingyang and the others quickly shrank their defense line and hid behind the 2 meat shields. Junior brother Yang! Xiao Ziji shouted. Shwa! Yang Yuhua leaned over and inserted her black iron shield in front of her senior brother. Bang! Xiao Ziji also placed his black iron shield in front of him. His arms were quickly covered with thick earth attributes. He suddenly raised his palm and slapped the shield, shouting, "Shield erect." Buzz! The entire space suddenly trembled and a bell rang. Whoosh! Whoosh! At the same time, an eggshell-like defensive enchantment was formed around Xiao Zui in all directions within a radius of a few hundred feet. This was the special effect of the mid-grade black iron shield called Shield Erect. Moreover, when multiple shields were activated at the same time, the defensive barrier condensed was even stronger. Bang! Bang! After the double shield erect effect was activated, the flame cannonballs that filled the sky instantly bombarded the barrier. Not only did they not break it, but they also rebounded the explosive force. After the wave of AoE skills ended, the shield erect barrier also dissipated. Xiao Ziji's hands trembled as he supported himself on the black iron shield. The corners of his mouth twitched violently. He had withstood it. However, the feeling of withstanding so many powerful fireballs and cannonballs was still very uncomfortable. Go. After dodging the attack, Li Qingyang and the others spread out again, and were about to condense all kinds of skills to attack. Kacha suddenly, the sound of bones breaking could be heard. Everyone was dazed for a moment. They all turned around, only to see that the sect leader had gathered two giant hands with spiritual energy and grabbed the wings of the Bloodbat King. Then he bent them and twisted them together as if they were fried dough twists. The entire process was clean and swift, but also extremely cruel. Li Qingyang and the others shuddered and secretly thought that it must be very painful. Chapter 694. The 100 martial kings could only send the Bloodbat King, flying with two divine-grade martial techniques. Jun Changshao had single-handedly pinched the wings of another Bloodbat King together. This was extremely frightening. Why not? How could he be a patriarch? Roar! The Bloodbat King, whose wings were twisted together, let out a heart-wrenching roar. Although it was created by the mystic realm, it had to bear the most realistic pain, just like the martial artists who entered it. Puchi! Jun Changshao suddenly raised his hand, and the twisted wings were directly torn apart. Blood immediately sprayed out like rain. This was really brutal. So brutal that the disciples of the sect of all times could not bear to look at it. They could only focus on the other Bloodbat King. Huff huff, scorching flames and dazzling light flashed and blasted from different directions. Boom! Boom! The Bloodbat King had a huge body, but its movement speed was slow. It could only miserably receive all the attacks before it was sent flying again. Huff huff, a gust of cold wind blew, accompanied by frost, and suppressed the heat around it. Swoosh! Lu Qianqian crossed her hands, and the cold air that spread out became stronger. In the end, the Bloodbat King was temporarily frozen. Junior brother Zhou, I'll leave it to you, Li Qingyang shouted. He knew that eldest senior sister's ice seal could only last for a limited time. Therefore, he had to rely on the sharpest attack to deal fatal damage to the Bloodbat King. Swoosh! Zhou Hong flew over and drew his sword. Swoosh! Swoosh! An unparalleled sword aura suddenly appeared in the darkness. It tore through space and slashed toward the Bloodbat King. Puchi, one of the Bloodbat King's wings fell off. Crack! 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 At the same time, the ice seal came into contact with the Bloodbat King. Because it had lost one of its wings, its huge body lost balance in mid-air and fell unsteadily. Kill it while it's down. Huff! Huff! The disciples of the sect of all times attacked one after another. Red sky roaring flame slash and 7 mysterious rays shot out and blasted the Bloodbat King. The Bloodbat King, who had lost one of its wings, was already severely injured. Now that it was attacked, it was like adding hail to snow. In the end, it fell to the ground with a loud crash. Yi Xingchen flew over and waved the frostlight sword in his hand. He immediately used the linear speed technique, forming a dense sword energy. Puchi! Puchi! Bloodbat Wang Shua's large body was instantly lacerated with wounds. Then it slumped weakly to the ground. Shua! Yi Xingchen landed and said disdainfully, trash. He couldn't even defeat a martial emperor-level Saint Beast. But he couldn't even defeat a heavily injured 7th-grade Saint Beast? Junior brother, be careful, Li Qingyang exclaimed. Boom! The Bloodbat King's body suddenly expanded. Before it died, it emitted the most brilliant light, as if it was congratulating the single dogs on a happy holiday. Yi Xingchen was in trouble. He was relatively close to the explosion point, so he was inevitably splashed with flesh and blood. Of course, the explosion of the Bloodbat King was not the self-destruction of a martial artist, so it wasn't very powerful. However, the flesh and blood on the armor were smelly and disgusting. The Night Emperor, who valued cleanliness, was in an extremely sorry state. Boom. Boom. On the other side, Jun Changshao stood on the Bloodbat King's body. He condensed spiritual energy into a fist and punched the opponent's head until it was smashed into meat paste. Whoosh! Suddenly, the scene in front of them changed. They were instantly in a swamp, and a disgusting stench blew in their faces. Obviously, after killing the two Bloodbat Kings, they entered the second stage of the normal difficulty. The disciples of the sect of all times didn't relax. The first stage was just a warm-up. The real test had just begun. Gulp. Gulp. Suddenly, bubbles appeared in the swamp, and the stench in the air became even more intense. Shwa! Shwa! At this moment, a group of slimy monsters rushed out. Their bodies were segmented, and they looked like giant caterpillars. So ugly, Su Xiaoma said. These caterpillar-like monsters were not only ugly, but also smelly. There were a total of 10 of them, and they surrounded the disciples of the sect of all times. Judging from the aura they emitted, they should be second-class spirit beasts. Babies, Jun Changshao said, let's fight. Shwa, shwa. The disciples spread out and tacitly formed groups of 10, and they charged at the ugly bugs. Boom, boom, boom. The light flashed and it was as bright as ever. Puff. The last bug fell into the swamp. Su Xiaoma, who was sitting on a rock, held his chin and said, "It's over." "Yeah," Li Fei said, "so fast." Wait, why were they all gathered so far away from the battle area? This was because Sect Master Jun didn't even wait for the disciples to rush forward before attacking with all his might. The second-class spirit beasts would definitely be abused in front of the sword and martial emperors, so they were all killed very quickly. Seeing that the patriarch was so powerful, the disciples simply retreated and quietly watched his performance. They couldn't blame Jun Patriarch for stealing the limelight. It was mainly because he didn't do anything in the easy mode and didn't give any experience until the end. Buzz. After the second level, the scene changed again. Everyone was in a red land, surrounded by hot volcanic craters. Yi Xingqian's pupils suddenly shrank. This scene, this atmosphere, wasn't it the same as when he challenged Hell Mode? It's over. Even Night Emperor, who was extremely calm, showed despair in his eyes. He could even imagine the sad scene of him having to go through a long period of weakness after failing the level. Whoosh! At this moment, lava spurted out from the largest volcanic crater, and a huge monster with a body like flames appeared. From the looks of it, it was really the holy beast that killed Yi Xingqian in an instant. No. Yi Xingqian frowned and said, "This guy's aura is not at the level of a holy beast." Whoosh whoosh, the huge monster made of flames rushed out of the volcanic crater, and the heat wave was the first to press down. Yi Xingqian in Hell Mode was directly killed by this aura. "Retreat!" Jun Changshao shouted. The disciples retreated one after another, and their eyes flickered with seriousness. This kind of colossus that was composed entirely of flames was definitely very powerful. Whoosh! Jun Changshao flew and rushed toward the fire beast. At the same time, his body of holy flames was fully activated, and dozens of flames erupted, turning him into a flaming man. Whoosh whoosh! Jun Changshao closed in and spread his arms. The flames immediately spread and completely enveloped the huge monster. This kind of action was undoubtedly suicide for other martial artists. However, with his body of holy flames, he could ignore it, even if the other party was comparable to Wu Huang at the peak of his strength. Whoosh whoosh! Jun Changxiao's flames merged with the fire beast's flames, and it was impossible to distinguish which was which. The disciples standing far away could clearly see that the flames were gradually weakening, which meant that one side's flames were decreasing. Roar! Vaguely, a sorrowful roar could be heard. Everyone was sure that the fire beast's flames were decreasing. Whoosh whoosh! The scorching flames were still erupting. About 10 minutes later, the originally huge fire beast had shrunk to 20 to 30 feet. Under the warm embrace of body of holy flames, as a fire element, it couldn't withstand it at all. Whoosh! Jun Changshao separated from it and floated in the air. He waved his hand and said, "I'll leave this guy to you guys. Each of you give it a punch." Since they were going to challenge the stage together, he had to give the disciples a chance to show off. Otherwise, They would be screwed if they didn't get any experience points. Yes, the disciples condensed their martial arts and blasted it toward the miserable fire beast. In the end, it was smashed into pieces. This it's over? Yi Xingchen was stunned. Whoosh whoosh. Suddenly, the spirit core in his dantian became restless, and pure energy gushed out. He was shocked. It's about to break through. Whoosh. Whoosh. Li Qingyang and the others sat down and welcomed the upcoming breakthrough. Jun Changshao, who was floating in the air, saw them sit down, and his expression suddenly became interesting. Because after passing all the stages, let alone breaking through, there wasn't even any sign of spiritual energy increasing. Come on. In the normal mode, I put in so much effort. Why didn't I get any benefits? Whoosh whoosh. Just when Jun Changshao wanted to cry, the spiritual energy in the two spirit cores suddenly boiled, and a strong thought of breaking through rushed into his mind. Haha, it's finally here. I can finally enjoy the benefits of passing the life and death secret realm. Chapter 695. Hoo-hoo, the momentum of leveling up spread throughout the secret realm. In a short time, all 100 disciples had leveled up. 3 months ago, they had leveled up in the easy mode. 3 months later, they had leveled up again in the normal mode. This was simply cheating. Li Qingyang and the others had experienced it once, so they could adapt. However, our Knight Emperor was stunned. Leveling up required comprehension of martial arts and hard work. Now they could do it just by passing the secret realm. This was simply unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yi Xingchen couldn't calm down for a long time. He couldn't understand why he suddenly had a higher understanding of heaven and earth attributes and martial arts, and leveled up without knowing it. The author couldn't give a reasonable explanation for this, so they could only treat it as cheating. June Patriarch had also leveled up, smoothly leveling up from 3rd grade to 4th grade. The whole process was very simple, no different from crushing an experience glyph. The reward system of the life and death secret realm was that whoever contributed the most would get more experience points. Without a doubt, in the normal mode, June Patriarch contributed the most, so he benefited the most. Of course, it was mainly because of the fire beast in the 3rd level, which just happened to match his attributes. Otherwise, it would have been a tough battle. Awesome. Jun Changshao led the disciples out of the secret realm. Sitting in the main hall, he began to think about how difficult the normal mode was. If the disciples didn't have the cultivation of Emperor level, they would probably be crushed. Combined with Knight Emperor's challenge of Hell mode, where he met a Saint Beast comparable to a martial emperor, he could roughly guess that the hard mode would be very difficult. Jun Changshao led the disciples through the normal mode, which gave the other disciples confidence. They formed teams and went to challenge it. Of course, there were still 100 disciples. In the end, 2 groups were eliminated. The 2 groups of disciples encountered the same scenario as the first time, and even the levels were the same. Because they didn't have powerful warriors like Patriarch, they naturally lost. The biggest disadvantage of Life and Death's secret realm was that the difficulty of the levels was fixed. It wouldn't be adjusted according to the overall strength of the participants. If 100 isn't enough, then 200. Jun Changshao changed his strategy and increased the number of disciples challenging the normal mode by 200. In the end, although they managed to clear the stage, the price they paid was also extremely heavy. The number of disciples eliminated was as many as 130, especially in the 3rd stage. You can't do that. Jun Changshao immediately gave the order to forbid the disciples from challenging the normal mode. Instead, they were to continue training in the simple mode until their cultivation base was higher, and they were confident enough to challenge it. You should have done this a long time ago, the system said. Life and Death Secret Realms mode did not allow the challengers to break through one by one. Instead, it allowed the challengers to train at whatever level was suitable for them. He played easy, normal, and difficult. Did he really think that this was a game? Is there anyone from the same sect who wants to challenge them? Invite me. I specialize in water element. I've comprehended the 5 elements heavenly reflection art. Earth element. Strong meat shield. Requesting position. We're short on fire-type armaments. It's best to equip them with the Cold Ray Sword. Level 49 Level 1. Let's start the party immediately. At the entrance of the Life and Death Secret Realm, there were many disciples who came to challenge it every day. This method of shouting, which was similar to that used in online games, must have been taught by Jun Gosheng. There were more and more disciples in the sect of all times. Many of them might not know each other. Without enough teammates, it was undoubtedly very convenient to come to the secret realm and shout out their strengths to form a team. In short, the opportunity to raise one's cultivation base was in the sect. Whether they could obtain it or not depended on their strength and teamwork. The normal mode was banned. The disciples of the sect of all times continued to challenge the simple mode. Because of their previous experience, it became easy to clear the stage. Those who were eliminated successfully passed after 3 months of hard work. They gained a lot of experience points and broke through to a higher level. The disciples who passed the stage twice did not break through. Repeating the same level of the secret realm would reduce the rewards. However, it was still possible. The spiritual energy in the spirit core increased a lot. With a little more cultivation they could break through. At least, it was much faster than relying on all kinds of resources or training hard. More importantly, entering the secret realm would mean experiencing a fierce battle. It would undoubtedly increase their combat experience and would not let the disciples become flowers in a greenhouse. Just like that, after the new round of restrictions of the secret realm was refreshed, there were disciples forming teams at the entrance of the secret realm every day, and it gradually became a trend. Sooner or later, my sect of all times will become the strongest existence. Jun Changshao stood on the peak of the back mountain, looking at the disciples forming teams at the entrance of the secret realm. The corner of his mouth raised into a smile. Patriarch. Li Qingyang sent a sound transmission. Young Master Tang is here to visit. Oh. Jun Changshao calculated the time. It seemed that it had been almost a month. He must be here to give him money. In the main hall, Tang Ren sat down with a face full of joy. During this period of time, the sales of the Tang family's pill store had been exceptionally good, causing him to have a lot of weight in the heart of the Tang family's old man. Although Tang Ren was one of the successors of the patriarch, his foundation was too weak, and his competitiveness was very low. Now that he had the pills in his hands, as long as he worked hard and expanded it, he would definitely have the capital to compete with the other direct descendants. Young Master Tang. Jun Changshao walked in, sat at the head of the table and laughed. How have you been? Jun Patriarch. Tang Ren stood up and said, These 3 pills of yours have already opened up the market in the Central Sovereign Prefecture, earning a lot of money every day. Jun Changshao said, That's because your family's reputation is good. The two of them exchanged conventional words for a while, then got to the point. One gave money, the other received money. Jun Patriarch. Tang Ren said, 80% of the 100,000 qi gathering pills you gave have been sold, and 50% of the heal pill and detoxification pill have been sold, earning a total of 700 million. When the pill market opened, he was not in a hurry to sell the goods. Instead, he limited his purchases every day, so he had not sold them out in a month. As for the heal pill and the detoxification pill, although they had been confirmed, they were not bought much because of their expensive prices. Moreover, martial warriors usually only had 1 or 2 pills in reserve, so their sales were far inferior to the qi gathering pill. This already made Jun Changshao very satisfied. If it was the AI family, they would definitely not have that much influence, and would not be able to open up the market in a short period of time. Jun Patriarch. Tang Ren handed over a few space ring S and said, Please accept this 500 million. Huh. Jun Changshao said, Isn't it 50-50? Tang Ren said, For your sect to refine this kind of pill, you definitely need high-quality medicinal ingredients, so you should get more profits. He didn't care about the amount of money. In the future, when the Tang family pill store expanded to cover the entire Falling Star continent, the profits would naturally rise. What Tang Ren needed to do now was to use enough sincerity to move Jun Changshao and establish an unbreakable cooperative relationship. That's good too. June Patriarch did not decline and kept the space ring. The space ring that young Master Tang gave him had a large capacity, so he could take out the money and distribute it to the disciples. After earning 500 million, he still cared about the space ring. This guy was really stingy, but then again that was not the case. Ever since he had transmigrated to the falling star continent, Jun Changshao had not gone out of his way to buy a spatial ring. He had either gotten it by buying it from others or by looting items. Chapter 696. Tang Run and Jun Changshao chatted for a while before leaving in a hurry. However, he did not return empty-handed. He took 100,000 qi gathering pills, 10,000 healing pills, and 10,000 antidote pills. As for the cold-edged sword, Tang Run had not started selling it yet, because he still hadn't decided whether he should sell it or auction it. If it was an ordinary upper-grade weapon, young Master Tang would definitely not consider selling it directly. However, the cold-edged sword's craftsmanship was perfect. After sending Tang Ren off, Jun Changshao gave the money to Li Luoqiu, telling her to develop the intelligence agency as soon as possible and buy more martial arts resources. No problem. With enough money, Li Luoqiu could do things without any restrictions. Jun Changshao leaned on the chair in the hall and said, "The sect also has more sources of income. We can focus on the upcoming Dragon-Tiger battle." There were only 2 months left before the start of the battle. At present, Li Qingyang and the others had just passed the life and death secret realm and broke through. It would be difficult for them to break through again. "Why don't we leave first and go to Black Mountain Cliff to take a look?" Jun Changshao murmured. He originally planned to go a month earlier. Now that the core disciples had all broken through, it would not be a problem to go a month earlier. Not to mention, he had also just broken through. Even if he cultivated for a month, there would not be any substantial improvement. It would be better to go and see the most prosperous state in the falling star continent. "I've decided," Jun Changshao said. "We'll leave in 3 days." Patriarch. At this moment, Lu Wancher walked in and pouted. "The cafeteria is getting less and less manpower. When are you going to find a few more chefs?" His father, Yangjun, had come and helped the little girl with a lot of work. However, with the monthly recruitment of disciples, the workload was getting heavier and heavier. He was so busy that he did not have time to study the food to improve his martial arts. "Girl," Jun Changshao said, "everyone is used to your and your father's cooking. If it were other chefs, they would not be able to adapt." "That's not a problem, I can teach them," Lu Wancher said. Li Luoqiu walked in from outside and said with a smile, "Patriarch, I think we should set up a dining hall and let the little girl manage the food." "That makes sense," Jun Changshao said. "Ah." Lu Wancher widened her eyes and said, "So you're saying that I'm going to be the hall master? You're not happy?" Jun Changshao asked. Lu Wancher hurriedly said, Happy. Jun Changshao said, "Tomorrow, I will announce the establishment of the dining hall. You will be the vice hall master, and your father will be the hall master." Lu Wancher, who was originally quite happy, suddenly froze. She didn't care about the position. What she cared about was how her father could become her superior. After the cooking competition, although Jun Changshao had given the father and daughter a chance to reconcile, Rome wasn't built in a day. If the two of them wanted to completely break the ice, they still needed time. Moreover, when they were cooking, Yangjun would always find opportunities to interact with his daughter, but the latter would always deliberately avoid it. "Do you have any objections?" Jun Changshao asked. Lu Wancher paused and said, "No objections." "Then it's settled." Jun Changshao was worried that Lu Wancher was too young and couldn't take up the position of hall master, so he let Yangjun take up the position. More importantly, this would also give the father and daughter a chance to mend their relationship. The next day, after the morning exercise, Jun Changshao announced the establishment of the dining hall. This department was in charge of food. The hall master was Yangjun, the vice hall master was Lu Wancher, and the only members were Ma Yongning, 1 black and 2 black. Jun Changshao specially told the Ning brothers that the next time they recruited disciples, they could also make an exception for those who had culinary skills. Since then, the sect of all times' halls had been enriched again. Junior sister Lu, congratulations on becoming a hall master. Sigh, is it so enviable? When will I be able to become a hall master? In the dining hall, Li Fei, Tian Qi, and the others surrounded Lu Wanshi and congratulated her. But their eyes were also filled with envy. You guys have no ambition. Su Xiaoma sat at the side, crossed his legs and said, since you want to be an elder, then be one. That makes sense. Li Fei and Tian Qi's eyes immediately lit up. The sect of all times didn't lack anything now, but it lacked elders, because there were only 4 of them. In terms of rank, an elder was definitely higher than a hall master. But, Li Fei said, Senior brother Su, how can we become elders? Don't worry. Jun Changshao walked in and laughed. When the sect becomes stronger in the future, anyone will have the chance to become an elder. Shua. Everyone stood up in unison and said, Greetings, Patriarch. Sit down. Jun Changshao gestured. Patriarch. Su Xiaoma leaned over and said excitedly, do we really have the chance to become elders in the future? Jun Changshao said. However, it will depend on your performance. In fact, with Li Qingyang and the others' cultivation, becoming elders was not a problem, but he did not consider it for the time being, because disciples still had to focus on cultivation. Night. Lu Qianqian stood alone on the mountain peak, her white clothes fluttering in the wind, like a fairy from the 9 heavens. What are you thinking about? Jun Changshao had appeared behind him at some point. Lu Qianqian did not turn around and said, Patriarch, are you really going to participate in the dragon-tiger battle for hegemony? Since I've already promised Hall Master Yi, I naturally can't go back on my words. Jun Changshao said. Lu Qianqian said, Dragon-tiger battle for hegemony is the continent's highest standard sect competition, and the sects participating are also very strong. The stronger they are, the more challenging it will be. Jun Changshao said. In the beginning, he had decided to bring his disciples to participate in the dragon-tiger battle for the sake of the spirit stones that Master Yi had given him. After receiving more and more information about this, he realized that he had to participate in such a grand competition, no matter what. Going to the various provinces to cause trouble was no longer enough to satisfy Jun Patriarch. He needed a bigger stage for his disciples to show off. Dragon-tiger battle for hegemony. Without a doubt, it was very suitable. Moreover, according to his judgment of the system, participating in this kind of large-scale sect competition would definitely trigger a quest that would allow him to earn enough contribution points. Lu Qianqian said, there will be many first-rate sects participating. That's even better. Jun Changshao said. After fighting with the second-rate Lily Holy sect, he really wanted to see if the disciples of the first-rate sects had one more leg than his own disciples, or if they had one more eye. Lu Qianqian said, first-rate sects have a strong foundation. If our sect participates in the battle, we have to be prepared for the worst. Jun Changshao shook his head. As the eldest disciple, I can't boost the morale of others and diminish my own prestige. Lu Qianqian was silent. She was once a disciple of the Taishan Xingzong, so she had a deep understanding of the first-rate sections. That was why she said those words, and it was definitely not because she was underestimating the strength of her fellow disciples. Since Patriarch is going to participate in the dragon-tiger battle for hegemony, this disciple will definitely do his best. Lu Qianqian said. With that he left. Watching the graceful figure disappear into the night, Jun Changshao rubbed his chin and said, this woman seems to know a lot about the first-rate sections. The system said. That's why I said, none of the disciples who can enter the host sect are ordinary people. The next day, Lu Wanshi had prepared a meal early in the morning, because the Patriarch was going to bring his senior brothers to the central region today. Chapter 697. The Dragon and Tiger Battle for Supremacy was the highest-ranking sect's disciple competition in the Starfall continent. It was very valuable. To show his respect, Jun Changshao brought the strongest 25 disciples of the sect. Lu Qianqian, Li Qingyang, and the other inner disciples were among the first batch. Later, Long Xiang and Song Xianzhe would be there as well. He Wudi, the last disciple who grew the fastest, also went. They were definitely the most elite disciples in the sect of all times. Regardless of cultivation or aptitude, they were among the best in the entire continent. To be honest, if there was no limit to the number of people, June Patriarch would bring all the disciples who had reached the martial king realm. Senior brother. At the mountain gate, the disciples sent them off and shouted loudly, "We'll wait for your triumphant return at the sect." Su Xiaoma, who had already reached the foot of the mountain, turned around and raised his hand. "Junior sister Lu, you must prepare a sumptuous meal and celebrate when you come back." They hadn't even participated yet, and they were already thinking about celebrating. If others heard this, they would definitely scoff. On the way, Jun Changsha repeatedly reminded them, "The dragon and tiger battle for supremacy in the Zhongzhuang province will be a test. You must treat it seriously." "Yes," the disciples replied in unison. Yi Xingchen, who was following behind, had a look of anticipation in his eyes. In his previous life, he had always been cultivating alone. Although he had heard of the dragon and tiger battle for supremacy, he had never participated. This time, he represented the sect of all times in the competition, which could be considered as making up for his regrets. "Brother Anyo." Suddenly, Huiyer's voice rang in his ears. "I hope you can return safely." Yi Xingchen's face darkened. This woman hadn't bothered him for a long time. Why did she suddenly take the initiative to speak to him today? Huier knew that Brother Anyo had lost his memory. So after joining the sect of all times, she forcefully turned invisible and spent her days either cultivating martial arts or learning cooking. Sometimes, when she was exchanging martial arts with her fellow disciples, she would pretend not to see Yi Xingchen when he passed by her. She would even deliberately avoid him. "Why are you afraid of him?" Li Luochio once asked her. Huier stammered. "Brother Anyo seems to hate me, so I can only avoid him." Li Luochio was speechless. The two of them were clearly engaged, yet they were purposely avoiding each other. Could this be the so-called distance makes the heart grow fonder? "If you ask me," Li Luochio stepped on the stool and raised the desert eagle. "Put the gun on his head and ask him if he wants to marry me. If he doesn't, I'll shoot him," she said murderously. "Wow." Lu Wancher opened her mouth and said, "Hall Masterly, this is too cruel." "Yes." Yao Minjing said, "How brutal." Li Luochio withdrew his spear and said, "When it comes to matters of the heart, we must make prompt decisions. If we can succeed, we will succeed. If we can't, we must break off. Otherwise we will suffer great harm." "Hall Masterly, you are so experienced," Lu Wancher said. Li Luochio said, "When I was an assassin, I took on many emotional missions and killed many heartless men." Boom! Boom! In an old forest deep in the mountains, there was an explosion. Powerful spiritual energy spread out and shattered the surrounding vegetation. Ta-ta! After a while, a half-naked rough man walked out with a spirit beast on his shoulder. This person did not look old, but his muscles were very developed. He must have had some achievements in bodybuilding. "Senior brother." A young woman sat on a tree and bit into an apple that she had just picked. "Master just sent someone to deliver a letter. He wants you to quickly prepare for the upcoming dragon-tiger battle for supremacy." Plop! The rough man threw the spirit beast down and sat on it. He shook his head and said impatiently, "Got it." He did not want to participate in the dragon-tiger battle for supremacy. He only wanted to continue cultivating in the mountains. Master also said. The woman smiled. "In the newly risen sect of all times, there is a disciple called Xiao Ziji. His physical defense is very strong. He can be your opponent." "Is that so?" The rough man's eyes suddenly lit up. In the bamboo forest, a man with a face cloth covering his eyes stood proudly. Clang! Suddenly, he unsheathed his sword. Shwa! 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 The sword light spread out and instantly cut the bamboo leaves. That picturesque scene also seemed to be torn apart by the sword chi. Senior brother's sword Dao has improved a lot. This time, as the strongest representative of our spirit sword sect, he will definitely achieve excellent results in the dragon-tiger battle for supremacy. He must take the first place. Yes, yes. A group of martial artists standing in the distance were discussing. The man sheathed his sword, took off his face cloth and whispered, I hope that in the dragon-tiger battle for supremacy, I can meet an evenly matched sword genius. Young patriarch, the dragon-tiger battle for supremacy will begin in 2 months. Why haven't you started cultivating? On a mountain peak surrounded by clouds, a disciple weakly asked. TSK. Lying on a rock, a sloppy young man curled his lips and said, With my current strength, do I still need to cultivate? I heard from the patriarch that in this dragon-tiger battle for supremacy, many first-rate sects will participate. Young patriarch, you must not be careless. The disciple said. The young man said disapprovingly, a group of vulgar mortals. It's already not bad that they can make me use 60% of my strength. The disciple was silent. The young patriarch's aptitude was without a doubt absolutely the best in the falling star continent. However, his temperament was a bit too arrogant. Sigh. The young man stretched out his arm and said, If I can't meet an opponent in this dragon-tiger battle for supremacy, it will be really boring. As the dragon-tiger battle for supremacy was about to begin, the top geniuses of various sects were eager to give it a try. This kind of high-level competition not only won honor for the sect, but also proved their strength. Naturally, they would not relax in the slightest. Of course, the major sects also set off for the Zhongzuan state one after another. At that time, when the strong cultivators of various states and counties gathered together, it would be a true gathering of heroes. Although Jun Patriarch had set off early with his disciples, they would only leave southwest Yangzhou a few days later. Because there was plenty of time, he was not in a hurry to leave. Instead, he went to the Heavenly Mandate Imperial City to visit City Lord Mu first, then the Heavenly Mandate Academy and the Certification Center. This time, the sect of all times represented the entire southwest Yangzhou. Therefore, Mu Changheng welcomed them with great hospitality and high hopes. After this, Headmaster Yi hosted a banquet for them. The topic never left the dragon-tiger battle for supremacy. He also gave him a list of participants, on which were many major sections. Good guy. There were a total of 200 sects participating in this dragon-tiger battle for supremacy. 5 first-rate sects, 10 second-rate sects, and the rest were all third- or fourth-rate sections. Moreover, nearly 30% of the sects came from the Zhongzuan state. Some of them seemed to be third- or fourth-rate sects, but their true strength might not be weaker than the second- or third-rate sects of other states. There aren't any fifth-rate sects, Jun Changshao said in shock. Headmaster Yi said, the fifth-rate sects participating in the dragon-tiger battle for supremacy have not appeared for hundreds of years. Jun Changshao hurriedly drank a mouthful of wine to calm himself down. He said, they are all sects that are more powerful than the sect of all times. This is really tricky. Jun Patriarch. Headmaster Yi said seriously, as long as you enter the second round, you will win. Chapter 698. Southwest Yangzhou's best result in the dragon-tiger competition was being eliminated in the first round. So Yi Tianqing hoped that the sect of all times could break this curse and enter the second round. Dojo Master Yi. Jun Changshao was speechless. Isn't this goal too low? Since he brought his disciples to the dragon-tiger competition, he was aiming for the championship. Entering the second round meant victory. He was looking down on them. Of course, Yi Tianqing said. If Jun Patriarch's sect can achieve a better result, that would be the best. He actually thought highly of the sect of all times. But there were too many sects from the Zhongzhuang state. There was no doubt that they would enter the second round, and there was a high chance that they would become Jun Patriarch's opponent in the next round. If they really met, it would be very troublesome. Therefore, Yi Tianqing was praying that the sect of all times would meet a non-Zhongzhuang state sect in the first round. If they had a higher breakthrough, they would have to continue avoiding them. The sects from the other states were thinking the same thing. No one was willing to meet a sect from the Zhongzhuang state in the first or second round. Otherwise, they would be defeated. Most of the sects from the other states are third or fourth rate. It's not challenging at all. On the way, Jun Changshao took out the list of participants and read it carefully. He murmured, "If we want to fight, we have to fight a sect from the Zhongzhuang state. Only then will it be interesting." Everyone was praying not to meet a sect, but Jun courting death was looking forward to meeting one. Of course, Jun Patriarch was thinking that if he met a sect from the Zhongzhuang state in the first round, it would be best if it was a third or fourth-rate sect. It wasn't because he was afraid. It was because it would be interesting to meet such a high-level sect. The system poured cold water on him. The opponents for the Dragon Tiger competition are randomly selected. Maybe the host will be lucky and meet a first-rate sect in the first round. "It doesn't matter," Jun Changshao said. "Since I'm aiming for the championship, I'll meet a sect of this level sooner or later." The host is optimistic. "I hope it won't be the first round," the system said. "Get lost." There was a distance between southwest Yangzhou and the Zhongzhuang state. But because there was more time, Jun Changshao wasn't in a hurry. He enjoyed the scenery along the way. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others were still in a state of excitement. As the most prestigious sect disciple competition on the Starfall continent, there was no doubt that many geniuses would gather there. It would be very exciting to fight against them. In the Lily Sacred sect, the most elite disciples of the sect had yet to make a move, so they were extremely looking forward to competing with the disciples of the first and second-rate sects. Even Yi Xingchen, who had been through a lot, was looking forward to it. Woody was the calmest because he came from the upper realm. He had no interest in the battles of the lower realm. Half a month later, the group entered the Zhongzuan state. Standing on the grass, Su Xiaoma took a deep breath and exclaimed, "Patriarch, the heaven and earth attribute is so rich. There are many places where spirit qi has recovered here, and the intensity of spirit qi here is much higher than in other provinces," Li Qingyang said. Jun Changshao rubbed his chin and thought to himself, establishing the sect in the Middle Venerable region will only allow the disciples to improve faster with such strong spiritual qi. The system asked, "Does the host plan to move the sect?" "No," Jun Changshao said. Ironbone Mountain was also a place where spirit qi had recovered, and the level of spirit qi was not inferior to that of the Middle Venerable region. He would definitely not spend too much effort to move it. People walked towards higher places, while water flowed towards lower places. However, Arjun Patriarch fell in love with the Azure Sun County and planned to develop there for a long time. Not to mention, he also had a huge ambition. He wanted to turn the area where the sect was located into the center of the continent, into the sacred land of martial arts that everyone yearned for. Back then, in the Black Wind Stronghold, Jun Changshao had once said that it was not his character to adapt, and that he would let the Starfall continent adapt to him. The people of the world now think that the center of the continent is the Central Venerable region. In the future, I will redefine it. The number 00, one of the Ironbone Mountain sect, is the true center of the continent. The deeper they went into the Middle Venerable region, the stronger the spiritual energy became. This not only made Li Qingyang and the others feel their blood boil. The more abundant the spiritual energy was, the more powerful geniuses could be nurtured. It would definitely be great to be able to fight with them. Soon, everyone saw scattered martial cultivators on the official road. Judging from their clothes, they should be natives of the Central Venerable region. The aura they emitted was not bad, and it was rare to see a martial disciple. Someone also saw Jun Changshao and the others and said in a low voice, "These people are dressed coquettishly, they shouldn't be from the Central Venerable region." The dragon and tiger battle for hegemony is about to begin. They might be sects from other regions. Dressed so fancily, aren't they here to be cannon fodder? The sense of superiority of the martial artists of the Central Venerable region was definitely higher than that of the other regions. Furthermore, in the previous dragon and tiger battle for hegemony, the sects of the Central Venerable region had won the most championships. Jun Changshao ignored them and took out the map to look at the marked location. He muttered, "We should be able to reach our destination in another day." Ta-ta-ta. Suddenly, the sound of horse hooves came from behind. "Everyone in front move aside." A domineering voice sounded. It was a group of dozens of people on horseback. They were galloping at high speed from behind, their bodies exuding a domineering aura. Jun Changshao frowned. The official road was so wide. Was there a need to move aside? Moreover, judging from the other party's momentum, if they did not move aside, they would bump into each other. There were thousands of roads, but safety was the first. Did they not know about the traffic slogans that caused their loved ones to cry? They didn't know? Fine, I'll tell you today. I've sinned, Jun Changshao said coldly. The system collapsed. You've only just arrived in the central venerable region, yet you're already causing trouble. Ta! Xiao Ziji suddenly stopped in his tracks. His thick earth attribute psionic energy erupted. He suddenly turned around, waved his right arm and swept it behind him. Hoo-hoo, the earth attribute psionic energy dragged the light, as if it had turned into a thick tree. This is bad. The faces of the martial artists who were rushing over changed drastically. Boom! Boom! Dozens of horses that were galloping over were swept away. The cultivators riding them fell to the ground in a sorry state, as they used their movement techniques. The martial artists who were walking at the front turned around, and coincidentally saw Xiao Ziji sweeping away the entire group of horses by himself. His eyes instantly widened. This young fellow's strength was definitely not ordinary. It's the Chao family from Jinling County. There's going to be a good show. Seeing the group of martial artists who staggered to the ground, the passers-by began to discuss in low voices. Jinling County was one of the 13 counties in the central region, and the Chao family was one of the top families in the county. Their overall strength was not inferior to a third or fourth-rate sect. The foreign sects actually dared to take the initiative to attack them. They were definitely courting death. Damn it! The domineering man who had shouted earlier, his eyes flashing with anger, said, "How dare you block our Chao family's path?" Shua! Su Xiaoma appeared in front of him, and the back of his right foot directly smashed into his face, sending him flying dozens of feet. After landing on the ground, he said coldly, "Clean your mouth. You're courting death." Clang! 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 Dozens of Chao family martial artists angrily brandished their weapons. In the next second, they were frozen in place. This was because Li Qingyang, Li Fei and the others had already closed in, the sharp swords in their hands resting on their necks. Without a doubt, if they moved their heads, they would have to move. The domineering martial artist who had been kicked away by Su Xiaoma stood up in pain, covered his face and angrily said, "You, who are you?" Chapter 699. There were many official roads in Zhongzuan State. The road that Jun Changshao and his disciples took just happened to lead to Jinling County, the most prestigious Chao family in Jinling County. Every time they took this road, they would definitely be awe-inspiring and unstoppable. The locals who were familiar with the style of this family would definitely make way for them. However, today they were defeated. Because they met Jun Changshao, they met the sect of all times. This group of stubborn people did not care about the other party's identity. As long as they dared to speed over, they would definitely teach them a lesson. Life and death were indifferent, and they would fight if they were not convinced. This was a basic quality that a person in Jianghu must have. "You, who are you people?" Easily blocking his path, rushing in front of him and kicking him away. The Chao family tyrannical martial artists finally realized that they were tough. Xiaoemo Jun Changshao said, "Tell him." "Yes." Su Xiaoma swung his black hair and said proudly, "Listen well, we are the disciples of the sect of all times. This is our imposing and extraordinary patriarch." Sect of all times? The passerby's expression changed. It was obvious that they had heard of this new sect from the southwest Yangzhou. The Sect of All Times is the 100th sect in the latest issue of the Heroes Seeking Deer list. No wonder they are so strong. The Chao family is in trouble, everyone discussed in low voices. The martial artists in Zhongzuan State had all heard of the Sect of All Times and knew that this sect was very violent, attacking other forces at the slightest disagreement. For example, a few evil sections. For example, the Extreme Cold Palace in the northeast Lu Prefecture. In the world's impression, the Sect of All Times was a young and inexperienced person who was not afraid of anything, and was very good at causing trouble. Very good at causing trouble. The Chow family tyrannical martial artist's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He had also heard of the sect of all times and knew that this sect was very violent, even daring to challenge the Lily Sacred Sect. June Patriarch. The anger on the tyrannical martial artist's face dissipated as he cupped his hands and said, "Please forgive me for offending you." Even though he was sent flying, even though he knew that the people blocking his way were very strong, he was still filled with anger. However, when he found out that they were from the sect of all times, he immediately admitted defeat. He had no choice but to admit defeat. If he really offended him, and brought his disciple to challenge his family, it would be a big problem. Although the Chow family was comparable to a third or fourth-rate sect, it was still just a family in the end. There was still a huge gap between it and a true third or fourth-rate sect. Even the Lily Saint sect couldn't withstand it. How could a single clan withstand this? Shaking his head, Jun Changshao replied, "Speeding is dangerous. What if you bump into a child? Even if you don't hit children, it's not good to hit flowers and plants." The corner of the Chow family cultivator's mouth twitched as he hurriedly nodded. Jun Patriarch is right. We will definitely slow down and travel carefully in the future. Jun Changshao was very satisfied with this attitude, so he waved his hand. Shua! Shua! Li Qingyang and the others put their swords back into their sheaths. The dozens of Chow family cultivators who were controlled immediately let out a long sigh of relief. "Let's go." Jun Changshao led his disciples and continued on their way. After they left, the passers-by started discussing again. The dozens of Chow family cultivators are all peak martial masters, but they were subdued in an instant. The disciples of the sect of all times are very strong. Nonsense, they have challenged all the major sects in the eastern vast continent, in the Lily Saint sect. Not to mention Wuzong, even a martial king couldn't win. A sect that can be ranked in the top 100 of the outstanding martial artists list is indeed extraordinary. In my opinion, the sect of all times has the potential to be a dark horse in this year's battle of dragons and tigers. The Chow family cultivators lifted their horses and took a detour to Jinling County. As for this resentment, they had to swallow it even if they didn't want to. This showed that with the sect of all times' current reputation, not just anyone would dare to provoke them, even in the Middle Continent. The Black Cliff was located in the south of the Middle Continent. Jun Changshao was participating in the Battle of Dragons and Tigers, so it was definitely not on the way. However, there was still some time before the competition, so he brought his disciples there. The dark sect that came out to show off their existence made him very unhappy. As long as there were any clues, he had to investigate them as soon as possible. Boom! Boom! However, when they arrived at a forest, they could faintly hear the sound of fighting. It was two groups of people fighting. Their cultivations were all at Wuzong's level, and they were fighting very vividly. Jun Changshao was too lazy to pay attention to them, and took a detour with his disciples. In the end, when they walked out of the dense forest, they encountered many cultivators fighting. The reason was none other than that "You stole my treasure. I stole his crystal core." And they even fought because they stole someone's woman. The Middle Continent's cultivators are also quite violent. Jun Changshao shook his head. As long as no one provoked him, he would not participate in other people's fights. Therefore the journey was peaceful. Roar! When they arrived at another forest, a huge spirit beast rushed out, its eyes emitting a sinister light. "You're courting death," Jun Changshao said indifferently. Whoosh! 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 A few figures flew out from both sides. Immediately, they used colorful martial techniques and killed the spirit beast that was comparable to a martial king. "Everyone!" The leading man in white sheathed his sword and said gently, "You're safe now." "Sect of all times disciples," Jun Changshao said, "Thank you for saving us." The white-clothed man smiled and said, "There are many spirit beasts in this forest. If you're going out, it's best to follow the official road. It'll be very safe that way." "Thank you," Jun Changshao said. "Let's go." The white-clothed man waved his hand and disappeared into the forest with a few cultivators in uniform. "Patriarch," Li Qingyang said, "these people are quite strong. They're only at the peak of Wuzong. With a few of them working together, they could easily kill a spirit beast. They should be disciples of some sect, Jun Changshao said. Su Xiaoma said excitedly. I'm looking forward to the battle of dragons and tigers more and more. Let's go. Jun Changshao continued to lead the disciples. After this incident, he deliberately chose to travel in the wilderness. The more ferocious beasts there were in an area, the more cultivators there would be. He could also use this opportunity to observe the overall strength of the Zhongzuan province cultivators. He did not disappoint Jun Patriarch. On the way to Black Cliff, they met many Zhongzuan province cultivators. Some were loose cultivators who chose to cultivate alone, and some were disciples of sects in pairs. Their strength might not be higher than the sect of all time's disciples, but the martial techniques they cultivated were not bad. Moreover, they cooperated very well. Some high-level ferocious beasts in other provinces might require dozens of people to kill, but in front of the Zhongzuan province cultivators, a few people could easily kill them. In short, the Zhongzuan province cultivators were much stronger than the other provinces in terms of talent and strength. A place nurtured a place's people. The cultivators raised in a place rich in spirit energy were much stronger than those outside. The stronger the Zhongzuan province cultivators were, the more excitedly Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others were. This was because ever since they joined the sect of all times, they had seriously lacked an opponent to fight to their heart's content. Patriarch, Su Xiaoma said, I feel like my blood is burning. Yeah. Li Fei clenched his fists and said, I can't wait to find a Zhongzuan province cultivator and have a good fight right now. Don't be anxious, Jun Changshao said. When the battle of dragons and tigers begins, that will be the stage for your performance. Ta! Ta! Suddenly the ground shook. Everyone hurriedly looked over and saw a rough man carrying a spirit beast the size of a mountain walk out from the depths of the forest. Every step he took left a footprint. Everyone. That person said awkwardly. May I ask where the battle of dragons and tigers is? It seemed that this guy was lost. Jun Changshao pointed to the west and said, Go straight in this direction, and you will reach the city where the battle of dragons and tigers is held. Thank you. The rough man carried the spirit beast and continued forward. However, his eyes met Xiao Ziji's for a while, and then looked away. Junior brother Xiao, Li Qingyang transmitted, this guy's physical body is very strong. Amen. Xiao Ziji kept looking at the rough man walking step by step and thought, he should be participating in the battle of dragons and tigers. Chapter 700. In the south of the central venerable state, there was a sloping mountain that extended upward. Because the surface was black, and there was not a single blade of grass growing, it was called the Black Cliff. There was nothing special about the Black Cliff. It could be said to be ordinary, until 10,000 years ago, when the demon emperor led a fierce battle with the experts of the righteous faction and became famous. Today, large groups of martial artists would come to the Black Cliff every day, relying on their imagination to imagine the unprecedented battle between the righteous and demonic factions. It's a pity that I wasn't born in that era, or else I would have fought with the demons until the sky turned upside down. In that battle, many experts of the righteous faction fell, but fortunately, we killed that demon at the last moment. Two martial artists stood on the Black Cliff and conversed, their words revealing their admiration and nostalgia for their ancestors. Patriarch. Suddenly, a voice came from behind. Is this the Black Cliff? There doesn't seem to be anything special. Hearing this, the two of them turned to look. More than 20 martial artists in gorgeous clothes had walked up at some point. The person in the lead was dressed in white, and looked to be in his early 20s, exuding a faint domineering aura. Who is it? Jun Changshao. Don't be fooled by this guy's usual frivolous attitude. After all, he had been the patriarch for several years, and had gradually revealed the aura of a superior. Li Qingyang said, the Black Cliff was originally ordinary, but it became known because of the battle between the righteous and demonic factions. He more or less knew about the matters of 10,000 years ago. Su Xiaoma asked, second senior brother. I heard that the demon emperor once stood here. and fought against dozens of powerhouses alone for a long time without a winner being decided? That's right, Li Qingyang said. Su Xiaoma said. The demon emperor is really strong. Hearing this, the two martial artists frowned. The demon emperor was publicly recognized as a great demon, but this guy dared to praise him? Su Xiaoma stopped at the highest point and looked at the magnificent scenery. He sighed. It's a pity that I wasn't born in that era, or I would definitely have seen the demon emperor's grace. Little friend, a martial artist in the distance could not help but say coldly, the demon emperor caused trouble on the continent back then, which was unacceptable. As a person of the continent, you should despise him, not praise. The martial artists who came to the Black Cliff were all remembering their ancestors who had died in battle. Now that someone admired the demon emperor, they could not stand it. TCH, Su Xiaoma curled his lips. Jun Changshao didn't pay attention to such a serious martial artist. He walked on the flat ground and released his spiritual senses to cover the entire Black Mountain cliff. Suddenly, in the process of extending his spiritual senses, he came into contact with some kind of enchantment. Jun Changshao concentrated his energy and began to penetrate the barrier that was blocking the extension of his spiritual sense. There was a cave on the other side of the barrier, but there was nothing inside. Less dust. Less dust. Less dust. This meant that something must have been placed here, but it was later taken away by someone. Jun Changshao guessed. Could it be that the Black Dragon Patriarch found the Demon Emperor's cave and placed the bloodthirsty technique on the stone platform? The system said. Jun Changshao of Black Cliff continued to observe, but he did not find anything. He came to the Black Cliff to look for the cave and see if he could find any clues. The result was disappointing. Sigh. Jun Changshao of Black Cliff sighed. No clues again. Suddenly, he released his spiritual senses and encountered another formation barrier. Thus he said in surprise, is there more than one cave here? Continue to crack. Wuxia released his spiritual sense and penetrated it again. In just a moment the second barrier was broken. There was also a small cave and a stone platform. On the stone platform, there was a black box. Judging from the engravings, it should have some historical value. Whoosh! Jun Changshao jumped off the cliff and directly jumped down. This sudden action stunned all the cultivators who had come to worship their ancestors. Why did he suddenly jump off the cliff? Li Qingyang of Black Cliff and Xiao Ziji of Black Cliff, they did not care. After all, the patriarch was strong. Even if he fell down, he would not die. Thud! At the bottom of the cliff, Jun Changshao of Black Cliff landed smoothly, then walked to the second cave. He soon merged into it and stopped in front of the stone platform. At this moment, he could roughly guess that there must be such a box in the previous cave, but it was taken away by someone else. Most likely, it was the patriarch of the Black Dragon Evil Sect. Whoosh! Jun Changshao of Black Cliff waved his hand and opened the box. Whoosh! Suddenly, a faint black attribute surged out of the box and dissipated in the air. It's not dangerous. Jun Changshao of Black Cliff relaxed, and the armor covering his body was automatically removed. In the open black box, there was a book with the words Demon Pass Scripture written on it. Mental cultivation method? Jun Changshao of Black Cliff took the secret book with a wave of his hand. There was a piece of brand new paper in it. There were many small words on it. The content was the Demon Emperor sect was divided. A group of traitors who violated the last words of the Demon Emperor wanted to snatch the Demon Pass Scripture. Therefore, they set up a big array on the Black Cliff and stored the martial arts of the Demon Emperor here. The handwriting was messy. Jun Changshao of Black Cliff judged that the person who left the words should have written it in a hurry. Traitors? Could it be the remnants of the demon sect? Jun Changshao of Black Cliff looked at the Demon Pass Scripture again and murmured, this mental cultivation method is the martial arts of the Demon Emperor? As the overlord who dared to be the enemy of the entire continent 10,000 years ago, the martial arts of the Demon Emperor must be extraordinary. How could he get it so easily? This was too childish. No. Jun Changshao of Black Cliff said. Anyone can easily find the array barrier. How could it wait until now for me to find it? He came to investigate the remnants of the demon sect, and accidentally obtained the demon pass scripture cultivated by the demon emperor. Because it was too simple, June Patriarch of Black Cliff became suspicious. What's more, the Patriarch of the Black Dragon Evil Sect had obviously found the cave. Why didn't he find this place, and only took away the bloodthirsty technique? The more he thought about it, the more confused he felt. Jun Changshao of Black Cliff shook his head, threw the demon pass scripture into the space ring, and then walked out. He released his spiritual senses again, and explored the Black Cliff inside and out. He didn't find any other array, so he had to return to the cliff to join the disciples. Qingyang. Jun Changshao of Black Cliff transmitted the voice. There is an array under the cliff. Have you found it? Array? Li Qingyang of Black Cliff said with a blank face. No. Jun Changshao of Black Cliff was also stunned. He didn't destroy the existing array. It still existed and was operating. As long as he released his spiritual senses, he could touch it. How could he not find it? It wasn't just Li Qingyang of Black Cliff. The disciples of the sect of all times released their spiritual senses one after another, but they didn't catch anything. Jun Changshao of Black Cliff held his chin and said, "Could it be that only you can find the array that exists under the Black Cliff?" Chapter 701. When Jun Changshao came to the Black Mountain Cliff, although he found a demonic scripture, he did not find any information about the remnants of the demon sect, so he could only leave with his disciples. On the way, he kept thinking about why he was the only one who could discover the array formation at the bottom of the cliff. Or, the person who set up the array formation set up a restriction so that ordinary warriors could not pry into it? If that was the case, how did the Patriarch of the Black Dragon Evil Sect discover the array formation at the bottom of the cliff? The system said, maybe others also have the opportunity? That's true. Jun Changshao was relieved. Was there any connection between the remnants of the demon sect, who betrayed the Devil Emperor sect, and the Masked Darkness sect? If there was a connection, why did they keep finding trouble with him? The system said, could it be that they have already discovered that Yao Menjing has the innate demon body, so they are deliberately targeting the host? Jun Changshao slapped his forehead and said, that's very possible. Thinking about it carefully, after Yao Menjing awakened the innate demon body, this darkness sect force appeared. Sigh. Jun Changshao frowned. I feel so uneasy every day that I can't find out where the darkness sect came from. The system said, if they are really here for Yao Menjing, they will definitely take action again. Host does not need to be anxious. Jun Changshao said, I'm just afraid that they will play dirty and hurt my disciples. If it was against him, he definitely wouldn't care. However, with so many disciples in the sect, if the other party continued to play dirty, something would happen sooner or later. It was easy to dodge an open spear, but hard to defend against a hidden arrow. If he had a choice, Jun Patriarch would rather fight openly with the third-rate evil sects like the Murdering God Palace and the Demon Channeling Palace than face the Darkness sect. Patriarch, Su Xiaoma said, are we going to the location of the Dragon-Tiger battle for hegemony? Yes. Great. The disciples of the sect of all times immediately became excited. Ever since they entered the central sovereign state and felt the dense spiritual energy and the various martial artists, their hearts had already been set on the Dragon-Tiger battle for hegemony. Great senior imperial city, the most prosperous and incomparably noble city. Every state had an imperial city, and as the central sovereign state of the continent, it naturally had a higher-level imperial city. This year's Dragon-Tiger battle for supremacy would be held in the Great Venerable's royal city. According to legend, the city was built in ancient times and had a long history. Jun Changshao did not find the clues he wanted at the Black Mountain Cliff, so he brought his disciples here. The imperial city was heavily guarded. If you want to enter, you need to provide identification. You are the Patriarch of the sect of all times? The general took the identity document and looked at Jun Changshao carefully. Not bad. Jun Changshao's heart skipped a beat. He thought to himself, Could it be that there was someone in the imperial city who was pretending to be him? Speaking of impersonation, Zhao Daodu had to be mentioned. This guy, who had been a swindler since he was young, had always been locked up in the sect. When the disciples had nothing to do, they would use him for practice. Although the Grand Elder of the Extreme Coldness Palace was pitiful, at least he could be considered a sweeping monk. Zhao Daodu was a living punching bag. Why did he have to impersonate Jun Changxiao and get caught red-handed? Go in. The general waved his hand. After getting the pass, Jun Changxiao led his disciples into the great senior imperial city through the city gate. However, the martial artists who were lining up to enter had a strange look in their eyes. They did not expect that this group of strangely dressed martial artists would be the disciples of the sect of all times. And the young man in the lead would be Jun Changxiao. Walking along the city gate tunnel, the street that appeared was very wide. Although the paved stone slabs were old, they exuded a mysterious power from the east. Jun Changxiao stepped on it. His state of mind seemed to be affected, and he was stunned on the spot. Li Qingyang and the others also had this feeling. They stood there in a daze, as images flashed in front of their eyes, as if the ancient city was telling them the past. These people should be coming to the imperial city for the first time. The passers-by on the street looked over smiling. The great senior imperial city was one of the oldest cities in the Falling Star continent. Anyone who entered for the first time would be baptized by history. To put it bluntly, it was a kind of aura that interfered with one's thoughts, making outsiders instinctively feel awe of the city. This kind of aura could ignore one's cultivation realm, whether it was King Wu or Wu Huang. As long as they entered the great senior imperial city, they would be disturbed and would be stunned on the spot until awe rose in their hearts. Let's go. Jun Changxiao's eyes regained their luster, and he got up. The disciples recovered from their thoughts and followed behind the patriarch. The martial artists in the city were all dumbfounded. After being frozen for a short time, they returned to normal. Wasn't this speed too fast? Or were they already in awe of the imperial city? Jun Patriarch and his disciples were surprised by the prosperity of the imperial city, but they did not have the slightest awe. As for why they recovered so quickly, it was because the aura could not interfere with them for a long time. The great senior's imperial city was really huge. Just a single district had dozens of streets, and each street was bustling with people coming and going. There was still a month before the dragon-tiger battle for hegemony. Since Jun Changxiao came first, he must find an inn to stay in. Patriarch. On the way, Li Qingyang said, "There is a Tangji pill store in front." Oh. Jun Changxiao looked up and saw the Tangji pill store in the busiest area of the street. At the entrance, many martial artists were gathered, all waiting to buy qi-gathering pills. "Business is good." Su Xiaoma smiled and said, "Patriarch, shall we go in and take a look?" "Let's find an inn to stay first." Jun Changxiao was just about to set off when a man in servant clothes walked over and cupped his hands. "Jun Patriarch, my young master has arranged a place to stay. Please follow me." "Your young master is?" The man lowered his voice and said, "Tang family's second young master." TSK. This partner of his was quite well informed. As soon as he came in, he ordered someone to arrange it. "Please," Jun Changxiao said. Under the guidance of the servant, they walked through a few streets and stopped at a large mansion. Just as they walked in, Tang Ren walked out from the hall and cupped his hands with a smile. "Jun Patriarch, you're finally here." "Young Master Tang," Jun Changxiao said. "You invited me a little sneakily." Tang Ren said. "Jun Patriarch doesn't like to be ostentatious, so this Tang didn't dare to welcome you with great fanfare." He had long known about the sect of all times coming to participate in the dragon-tiger battle for hegemony, especially when the other party had just left the sect a few days ago. The Tang family was in the imperial city, so Tang Ren naturally had to act as a host, but when he thought about how he was doing business with Jun Patriarch, he did not allow others to know, so he decided to keep it simple. Otherwise, they had already warmly welcomed him at the city gate. This kind of way of secretly sending someone to invite him made Jun Changxiao very satisfied, because his motto was to keep a low profile. "Jun Patriarch," Tang Ren said. The mansion is this Tang's. Although the environment is not good, it is cleaner than the inn. If you don't mind, you can let your sect's disciples stay here first. Then I'll have to trouble you, Jun Changxiao said. He had originally planned to stay in the inn, but since young Master Tang was providing a place to stay for free, and it was such a big mansion, he would definitely agree. If he did not take advantage of it, the heavens would not tolerate it. Chapter 702. The residence that Tang Run provided was very luxurious, and there was a relatively independent martial arts practice field and cultivation room. When the disciples of the sect of all times moved in, they could also practice martial arts when they had nothing to do. However, it was such a high-class residence, but in young Master Tang's mouth, the environment was a little worse than an inn. He was indeed rich. Not bad, not bad. Jun Changxiao walked around the residence and said, I've troubled young Master Tang. You and I are business partners. Now that you have come to the Imperial City, this Tang naturally has to do his best to entertain you. I don't dare to relax in the slightest. Tang Ren laughed. Jun Changxiao said, Young Master Tang, is there any fun place in the Imperial City? It was still far from the start of the dragon and tiger battle. Since they had come to such a big city, they had to find time to go out and play. Tang Run gave a I understand look and said in a low voice, There is a red fragrance market in the north of the city. It is a man's paradise. This Tang will bring Jun Patriarch there tonight. Man's paradise? Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched and said, Young Master Tang, you misunderstood. I'm not referring to the brothel. Understood, understood, Tang Ren said in a low voice. If Jun Patriarch doesn't like to go out and play, there's no problem in the residence. Jun Changxiao almost couldn't help but kick him out. Previously, he thought that he was a smart person, but now he seemed a little stupid. Or was the word pervert written on his face? Tang Ren couldn't be blamed for misunderstanding. After all, men, if they looked for fun places, it would be easy for them to misunderstand. Moreover, as a direct descendant of a big family, they all had their own circle of friends. Every time they gathered, they would go to the brothel to seek pleasure. At night, Tang Ren held a banquet to invite Jun Changxiao and the disciples of the sect of all times. After drinking, Jun Changxiao returned to his room to rest. Just as he entered the courtyard, he saw two beautiful women standing at the door. Sorry, wrong door. Jun Changxiao hurriedly turned around and retreated, but after walking out, he touched his head and said, No, this is my residence. He walked in again and said, You too, did you come to the wrong place? Young Master Jun, a beautiful woman smiled and said, We are here to serve you. Her voice was bone-numbing, causing one's imagination to run wild. Jun Changxiao, this Tang Ren really thought of himself as a lecher. He actually arranged for two beauties to serve him in bed. Jun Changxiao said with a straight face, I don't need it. You can go back. The enchanting woman walked down gracefully and said with a smile, Young Master Tang has instructed us to serve young Master Jun. Jun Patriarch had already drunk some wine. When he heard the bone-numbing sound, his mind immediately rippled. No. He had come to the great senior royal city to participate in the dragon-tiger battle for hegemony. So how could he indulge himself in women's charms? Jun Changxiao's mind suddenly became clear, and he said in a deep voice, Leave now, or don't blame me for being ruthless. His voice contained an inviolable imperial might, causing the two gorgeously dressed beauties' expressions to change slightly. They hurriedly bowed and left. Was it because her appearance wasn't outstanding enough to attract young Master Tang's friend? No. You two are very outstanding, but Jun Patriarch, phew. After the two women left, Jun Changxiao let out a long sigh of relief. The temptation of beauty was really a bit tricky. He almost couldn't calm his mind and chose to indulge. Don't look, Jun Changxiao said in a bad mood. Drive them away. Swoosh, swoosh. In an instant, Su Xiaoma, Li Fei and the others hurriedly retracted their spiritual senses from the courtyard. Eldest senior sister, Ling Yuanxua said with a smile. I told you Patriarch is a gentleman. Lu Qianqian said lightly. He already knew that we were watching. Otherwise he would be hugging left and right now. The next day, Jun Changshao called Tang Ren over and said with a serious face, "Young Master Tang, I have always been clean and honest. I don't need others to serve me." "Understood, understood." Tang Ren transmitted his voice. "Jun Patriarch, there are so many disciples here. It's my mistake. I didn't think it through. Next time, I will be sneaky." Jun Changshao almost vomited blood. It was all his fault. He said that there was no fun place. In the end, he made this guy think that he was really a lecher. The sects of the various provinces entered the imperial city one after another, and the number of people in the city increased day by day. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji and the others rarely went out. They spent their time on cultivation, hoping to be in their best condition to welcome the dragon-tiger battle for hegemony. Although Jun Patriarch occasionally went out for a stroll, he still spent more time on inquiring about the details of the various sections. After all, only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you win 100 battles. Jun Patriarch. Tang Ren took out a large stack of information and said, "These are all the information of the participating forces of the Zhongzuan province." Jun Changshao started flipping through the pages. Tang Ren sat down and drank a mouthful of tea, then said, "Jun Patriarch, although there are first-rate sects participating in this year's dragon-tiger battle for hegemony, you must pay more attention to the disciples of the second and third-rate sections." Jun Changshao asked, "Why?" Tang Ren said, "The disciples sent by the first-rate sects might not be the best. Only the second and third-rate sects will go all out." "For example?" Jun Changshao said. Tang Ren took out a copy of the information and said, "For example, this second-rate world-defying sacred sect sent the young patriarch, Ao Wushuang, to participate. This person had already broken through to the martial king realm a few years ago. His strength is extremely strong." Ao Wushuang. Jun Changshao remembered this person. Tang Ren took out another set of information and said, "And this Zhao Dazhuang." Zhao Dazhuang. The corner of Jun Changshao's mouth twitched violently. The disciples of the sects participating in the dragon-tiger battle for hegemony were all outstanding geniuses. There was actually someone who would give such a lame name. Tang Ren said, "Although Zhao Dazhuang's name is ordinary, he has an indestructible diamond body. He is a person with an extremely strong physical body." Indestructible diamond body? Jun Changshao was astonished. As a young man from the modern era, he immediately thought of a way to break the move. 1. Kick the crotch. 2. Stab the eyes. There is also Jian Feiyun. Tang Ren said, "This is a disciple of a third-rate sword sect. He is obsessed with the way of the sword. It is said that he has comprehended the word fast. He is the fastest sword cultivator in the younger generation. There is also a disciple of the High Heaven Sacred Sect. He has already entered the martial king realm at such a young age. Moreover, he has comprehended the sect's martial arts to the extreme. He can casually use saint-level martial arts." He took out several sets of information, all of which were the most eye-catching sect disciples participating in the dragon-tiger battle for hegemony. Jun Changshao said, "The dragon-tiger battle for hegemony is truly a gathering of dragons and tigers." Tang Ren said, "These are just the more outstanding disciples. In fact, every sect's participating disciples are very strong. Since Jun Patriarch has brought disciples to participate, we must not be careless." "Yes." Jun Changshao's expression became serious. The dragon-tiger battle for hegemony was approaching. In the most central area of the imperial city, the construction of the arena for the sect's disciples to compete began. It was an extremely large arena with spectator stands around it. It could accommodate 500,000 martial artists. The most amazing thing was, above the arena, there was a mirror-like array erected. From Tang Ren, Jun Changshao learned that this was a projection array. It could capture the battle in the arena and broadcast it in real time for the martial artists in the city to watch. "Damn, it was a live broadcast," Jun Changshao said. "Will the battle scene be transmitted to other provinces?" "Yes," Tang Ren said. The dragon-tiger battle for hegemony is the highest level of sect competition in the Starfall continent. At that time, all the provinces and cities will set up a projection array, allowing martial artists to witness it in person. "That's amazing." Jun Changxiao said. He did not expect the other world to be able to use the array to such an extent. Would it become a live broadcast mode in the future? Or a bullet screen? If it was even more awesome, it would be able to contact the distant Earth and transmit it to the internet. Would it not allow the weaklings to watch the battle scenes of the world of martial arts from their computers and phones? Chapter 703. The organizers of the Dragon and Tiger competition were very efficient. In just a few days, the venue for the competition had been built. The spectator stands were divided into many levels. Some were for ordinary warriors, some were for families and sects, and there was also a VIP area for the elders of the participating sections. With Jun Changxiao's identity as the patriarch, he was a VIP. At the same time, projection arrays were set up one after another in the cities of the 9 states. This was a very expensive project, because every array formation required a large number of array masters to set it up. Of course, the cities had to pay the organizers a broadcasting fee to set up the projection arrays. The live broadcast of every dragon and tiger battle for hegemony was a very good source of income. Jun Changxiao stood in the courtyard and looked at the huge projection array. If we can sponsor it and put up the recruitment slogan of the sect of all times, it will definitely attract many applicants. This idea was very earthly. It was a pity that such a grand competition did not allow advertisements. Otherwise, it would be very annoying to broadcast an advertisement every time there was a match. Jun Patriarch. Tang Ren walked in and said in surprise, "Today is the registration day. Why haven't you left yet?" In fact, Yi Tianxing had already registered the sect of all times a few months ago. Now that the competition was about to start, the organizers naturally had to check if the participating sects had arrived. No rush, no rush. Jun Changxiao said, "There will definitely be many people going at this time. Let's wait a little longer. I happen to know the person in charge of the registration." Tang Ren said, "There's no need to let Jun Patriarch queue up for registration." Jun Changxiao said, "Then let's go." The registration area was at the newly built arena. At this moment, many of the upper echelons of the sects had already gathered here and were waiting for the organizers to review them in order. "Isn't this elderly? We haven't seen each other for a while." Patriarch Song's cultivation has become more profound. It was inevitable that the elders of the various sects would meet acquaintances, so they chatted enthusiastically. Not long after, Tang Ren brought Jun Changxiao to the registration area, and then entered a temporary tent. There were many people inside who were there to cut the queue. Tang Ren suddenly felt a little awkward. He had thought that he could use his connections to help Jun Patriarch pass the assessment in advance, but he didn't expect that there would be so many sects taking shortcuts. "Isn't this the second young master of the Tang clan?" A young man laughed. The 2 old men standing at the side emitted a vigorous aura. They were the elders of the brilliant gold holy sect, who had come to participate in the dragon-tiger battle for hegemony. Because they weren't from the central sovereign state, they had specially found a direct descendant of the Yen clan to enter through the back door, hoping to pass the examination faster. "Young Master Yen," Tang Ren said with a fake smile. The Yen family was a martial arts family in the imperial city, and was very powerful. This young Master Yen had never liked the direct descendants of the clan who did business. He liked to choke people with his words when he had nothing to do. If it weren't for the fact that they were both living in the city and seeing each other all the time, Tang Ren wouldn't have bothered with him. "Second young Master Tang." Young Master Yen smiled and asked, "And this is?" "This Tang's friend," Tang Ren said indifferently. "Oh." Young Master Yen smiled and said, "Second young Master Tang brought him here. Could it be that he's also a high-ranking member of some sect participating in the dragon-tiger battle for supremacy?" Jun Changxiao said, "That's right." The 2 elders of the Golden Brilliance holy sect behind him were stunned when they heard this. This young man was at most 20 years old. Could he be a high-ranking member of some sect? "Which sect are you from?" Young Master Yin asked. Jun Changxiao said, "You don't have the qualifications to know. If you want to ask, You have to ask your elders in person. From the short conversation, he could see that young Master Yin was a little arrogant, and there was a hint of ridicule in his words. He was a person who deserved a beating. The best way to deal with such a person was to not talk nonsense and directly ask him. I don't have the qualifications? The proud and arrogant young Master Yin suddenly had a trace of anger in his eyes. Friend, an elder of the Golden Brilliance Holy Sect said indifferently. I wonder if this old man is qualified to know? Who are you? Second-rate elder of the Golden Brilliance Holy Sect, Duan Zisho. You're barely qualified. Still, barely qualified. Duan Zisho's face darkened and said coldly. This little friend is so arrogant. I wonder which sect you are from. Not big. Jun Changshao shrugged and said. It's just a small sect of all times. Sect of all times? Duan Zisho said in shock. You're Jun Changshao. Shua. Jun Changshao opened his folding fan and said. That's right, it's June. There were no decorations on the fan. Only 4 words were written on it: handsome. Without a doubt. This was prepared by June Patriarch himself. Usually, he would put it in his spatial ring and take it out to show off when he had nothing to do. When the martial artist saw the 4 words on the fan, they immediately had the urge to beat him up. So it's June Patriarch. Duan Zisho smiled coldly and said, Sorry. The Golden Brilliance Holy Sect came from the Eastern Haozhou. Some time ago, the sect of all times went to challenge the Lily Holy Sect and beat the disciples of the various sects there. Young Master Yin said in disdain, I thought you were some amazing person, but you're just the patriarch of a 5th-rate sect. He had definitely heard of the sect of all times before. It was undeniable that they had done many amazing things during this period of time. But this time, there were many 1st- and 2nd-rate sects that came to participate in the Dragon Tiger battle for hegemony. For example, the Golden Brilliance Holy Sect. Their overall strength was stronger than the Lily Holy Sect. When they asked him for help, he was polite. Where did the leader of a 5th-rate sect get the courage to think that he was not qualified to know which sect he came from? Next, at this moment, the old man sitting in the tent shouted. Young Master Yin looked coldly at Jun Changshao, then brought the 2 elders of the Golden Brilliance Holy Sect to verify. Jun Patriarch. After passing the verification, Duan Zisho walked past him and said in a low voice, You better pray that you don't meet my Golden Brilliance Holy Sect in the 1st round. Oh, Jun Changshao replied with a smile. Duan Zisho waved his sleeves and left. Young Master Yin also deliberately stopped when he passed by. He looked at Jun Changshao, then looked at young Master Tang, shook his head and said, Young Master Tang's friends are all from 1st- and 2nd-rate sects, but second young Master Tang is with such a sect. There is really no comparison. Young Master Yen, Tang Ren smiled and said, You don't have to worry about my matters. As a person who had been in the business world, he naturally would not be emotional easily. Jun Changshao, young Master Yen said indifferently, I hope that your arrogance and pride can be maintained until the end of the Dragon Tiger battle for hegemony. I also hope that you can leave in high spirits and not slip away with your disciples. Jun Changshao said, I will not let young Master Yen down. I will definitely persist until the end, and I will definitely leave in high spirits. Humph. Young Master Yen sneered, then turned and left. Young Master Tang. Jun Changshao touched his nose and said, This guy is a bit asking for a beating. Tang Ren said, Jun Patriarch, no need to pay attention to him. Not long after, it was Jun Changshao's turn. He walked up and reported his sect's token and disciple quota. Let's wait for the Dragon Tiger battle for hegemony in a few days. After returning to his residence, Jun Changshao continued to study the information of the various sects, and specifically found the Golden Brilliance Holy Sect. When he saw that they belonged to the Eastern Haozhou, he understood why they were acting strangely towards him. Sai, bringing Xiao Ziji to challenge the Lily Holy Sect was equivalent to offending all the sects in this state. A few days later, the Dragon Tiger battle for hegemony venue was decorated with lanterns and colored banners, and it was extraordinarily lively. On the well-developed streets, many martial artists rushed in like a flood. Today was the day of the Dragon Tiger battle for hegemony. Jun Changshao had deliberately changed into a set of decent clothes and walked with his feet splayed outwards, swaggering towards the venue with his disciples. Patriarch. Su Xiaoma's eyes were very sharp. He pointed to the front and said, "The people from Miaohua Palace are here too." Jun Changshao looked towards the sea of people and saw Shi Jingxian being supported by Lier. He shook his head and said, "It seems that the tranquil heart lotus did not cure her eye disease." Chapter 704. Shi Jingxian, who looked rather weak, walked in the sea of people like a bright pearl, appearing so dazzling. The cultivators passing by would subconsciously look over and marvel at her appearance. However, after seeing this woman's empty eyes, they couldn't help but guess that there might be something wrong with her eyes. No wonder she had to be supported by someone. Sigh. Such a beautiful woman was suffering from an eye disease. It was really heartbreaking. Lier. Shi Jingxian, who was walking on the road, whispered, "Have you seen Jun Patriarch?" The ingenious flower palace didn't participate in the battle of dragons and tigers, but the sect of all times did, so she rushed over after hearing the news. Palace Master. Lier was speechless. "You've asked 800 times. Have I?" Shi Jingxian calculated in her mind. "I think it's only been 80 times. Lier, ever since the palace master met that guy, she couldn't forget him. Could it be that she really had feelings for him?" "Lier," Shi Jingxian said, "look carefully." Lier said perfunctorily, "Palace Master, there are too many people." Then, she stopped abruptly, because she just happened to see someone walking over from the corner of her eyes. Jun Changshao. "Palace Master Shi," Jun Changshao said, "what a coincidence to meet in the great sage's imperial city." Hearing the familiar voice, Shi Jingxian hurriedly turned around with a happy smile on her face. "Jun Patriarch." Lier. Previously, the palace master insisted on going to the Lily Holy Sect, but was forcefully stopped by the elders, so she had been sulking. Now that she saw that guy, she smiled. This was definitely true love. "Palace Master Shi." Jun Changshao transmitted his voice. "Is the tranquil heart lotus useless?" "Yes," Shi Jingxian said. Jun Changshao comforted her. "Don't be discouraged. Your illness will be cured sooner or later." Shi Jingxian smiled. "I'm already used to it. By the way," she said apologetically, "previously, when you took your disciples to challenge the Lily Holy Sect, I wanted to go and cheer them on, but I was busy with sect affairs and was delayed." In fact, she really wanted to go. However, they were forcefully stopped by Zhang Sunfanghua and Leng Xingyue. Their reason was that this was a grudge between their sects. So how could they participate? "All right then. Then I won't go. But this time, you can't stop me from going to the central sovereign state, right?" Zhang Sunfanghua and Leng Xingyue could not stop them. After all, the dragon and tiger battle for supremacy was the greatest event of the continent, so it was very normal for them to come and watch the excitement. Jun Changshao said, "I'm fine." He was already very grateful for the thought. "Palace Master Shi," Jun Changshao said, "the battle of dragons and tigers is about to begin. I still have to bring my disciples to the venue, so I'll take my leave first." Shi Jingxian smiled and said, "Your sect's disciples will definitely achieve good results." "Thank you." Jun Changshao led his disciples forward. "Senior apprentice brother." On the way, Li Fei whispered, "This palatial master, she seems to be interested in the patriarch." Su Xiaoma said, "I saw that long ago." "Palace Master Shi and our patriarch are quite compatible," Li Fei said. Smack. Jun Changshao hit his head and said, "The dragon and tiger battle for supremacy is about to begin. Focus on the important points." "Yes." Li Fei held his head and said, "At the venue of the dragon and tiger battle for supremacy." After Jun Changshao took out his participation token, he walked in under the guidance of a person. Just like the previous Azure Sun County Grand Competition, all the participating disciples would be arranged in a few specific areas before the competition began. Jun Patriarch. The person leading the way said, "I've arranged everything. Please follow me to the spectator platform." "Okay." Before Jun Changshao left, he looked at the disciples and reminded, "Since you're participating, play seriously. Don't let your guard down." "Yes." All the disciples shouted in unison. The dragon and tiger battle for supremacy was a gathering of geniuses. They would definitely treat it seriously. Long Xiang clenched his fists and said with a burning gaze, "I'm a little excited." "Me too," Song Xianzhou said, thinking about how they would be able to compete with the geniuses of the various sects in front of everyone. They couldn't control their emotions. The cultivators of the counties in southwest Yangzhou were even more excited than them. Although the projection array formation hadn't been activated and was still blank, there was already a sea of people below. In the previous competitions, there would also be many people watching. However, this competition undoubtedly received the most attention because the one representing southwest Yangzhou in the dragon and tiger battle for supremacy was the sect of all times. This sect had brought too many surprises and shocks to everyone. They all hoped that they could break the curse and successfully advance to the second round. Therefore, the sect of all times wasn't fighting for themselves. That group of young and energetic disciples carried the hopes of all the people of southwest Yangzhou. Longyang City Long family, Long Patian stood in the courtyard and looked at the floating array formation. Although he looked shocked, his hands were trembling violently. "Family head," an elder said, "don't be so excited." Long Patian couldn't control his emotions and said loudly, "Xiang is representing the sect of all times in the dragon and tiger battle for supremacy. It's the glory of our family. How can I not be excited?" The elder was silent. Our Long family's patriarch can be considered to be strong enough. Family head Li and old master Song were so excited that they almost couldn't stand properly. As a father who didn't want their children to have a bright future, today, Li Qingyang and Song Xianzhou were representing southwest Yangzhou in the dragon and tiger battle for supremacy. They would be competing with the top geniuses of the continent. That was a great honor. "My son has participated in the dragon and tiger battle for supremacy." This sentence, this matter, was enough to brag about for the rest of his life. In the VIP area of the spectator platform, Jun Changshao walked in under the guidance of a person and found a seat belonging to the sect of all times. This was the best spectator area. One could see everything from any of the arenas in the center of the arena. The VIP area was already filled with elders from various sections. They all looked at Jun Changshao, who had just walked in, and thought to themselves, "Is this the patriarch of the sect of all times? He's already a sword king at such a young age. He can be considered a rare genius." Golden Brilliance Holy Sect's Duan Zisho was also present. He laughed coldly and thought to himself, "I really hope that my opponent in the first round is the sect of all times." Many big shots had the same thought. After all, among all the sects, only the sect of all times was a fifth-rate sect. Against such an opponent, they would undoubtedly enter the second round with the least amount of energy. Jun Changshao leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes to rest. If he knew that all the elders wanted to be matched against their own sects, he would definitely laugh. "I can't guarantee against a first or second-rate sect, but if I'm matched against a third or fourth-rate sect, my disciple can beat your disciple to a pulp." Wang! Suddenly, the projection array in the air trembled, and the scene in the arena gradually appeared. At the same time, the array set up in the continent cities also began to appear. "It's activated. We can finally watch it." The cultivators from all the counties and cities were instantly excited. However, after the image was completely clear, a large face suddenly appeared in the projection array. Then, it stroked its hair in a very flirtatious manner and said, "The Eternal Sect has always been recruiting from the outside. Those who are interested can come to the Azure Sun County to consult." Whoosh! Whoosh! Two Wu Huang level experts flew over and grabbed Jun Changshao's arms, pulling him back. "Come on, young man." Although he was being pulled away, he still shouted at the projection array, "Join my sect and let's dream fly together." The audience of the continent, Yi Tianxing, Situ Haoyan, Ma Yunting, and the others watched as Jun Patriarch was taken away by the two experts. Their mouths twitched violently. He was probably the only one who could think of and do something like promoting his sect to the projection array. Chapter 705. In the past dragon and tiger battle for supremacy, the projection array would be activated first for all the martial artists to watch. However, when the array was activated this time, the scene that appeared in front of everyone was not the competition venue, but Jun Changxiao's handsome face. He was openly advertising in front of the camera. This kind of suffocating operation was really unexpected. Fortunately, the organizers' emergency response was very strong. When they saw someone approaching the array, they hurriedly sent Tu Wu Huang to pull that bitch down. Therefore, everyone in the mainland saw Jun Changxiao being forcibly taken away by the doctors like a severely ill mental patient. The person who was pulled away just now was the patriarch of the sect of all times? He is so young. He is probably the first person in history who dares to advertise his sect in the upcoming dragon and tiger battle for supremacy. When Go Sheng appeared on the screen of the array, everyone remembered him instantly. They also remembered the recruitment words he shouted just now. Join my sect, and let your dreams fly together. It sounded very interesting. Many youths had a strong interest in the sect of all times. This was the power of advertising. Although many people would ignore it, there would always be people who would take it to heart. Therefore, Jun Patriarch took the risk of being expelled to advertise forcefully. It was still effective. I admire him. Tang Ren's eyes were full of admiration. The dragon and tiger battle for supremacy was about to begin. It was bound to attract the attention of the world. If he went up to advertise his sect, it would definitely bring him great benefits. If he could also advertise his elixir store on the array, it would definitely become popular in the mainland. Wait a minute. The projection array was set up high in the sky. How did Jun Patriarch get up there? The elders of the various sects present also realized this problem. Therefore, when they saw that guy being dragged down by the two experts, they exclaimed, "He is Wu Huang." Regarding Jun Changxiao's strength, the outside world had always thought that he was the sword and martial kings. Even if someone had seen him flying, they would only think that he had used a wing-like treasure. Now he was suddenly suspended in front of the array, without using any tools. He must have flown up with his own strength. An expert said solemnly, "If the sword and martial kings want to break through, they have to comprehend the sword Dao to the extreme. Could it be that that fellow is now the sword and martial emperor?" Someone refuted. The birth of the sword and martial emperors will definitely cause a phenomenon. The continent has been peaceful recently. How can he be the sword and martial emperors? Not bad. Many of the upper echelons of the sects agreed. Back then in Qingyang City, when that guy broke through to the Sword King and Martial King realm, more than half of the world had witnessed the phenomenon. If he broke through to the Sword King realm, the phenomenon would definitely be even greater. Could it be that he realized that the Sword and Martial Kings had too many restrictions, and chose to give up on one of them? It's possible. That guy should be Wu Huang now. His swordsmanship should have been erased. Everyone was discussing this matter. The fact that the patriarch of the sect of all times only had Wu Huang as his cultivation level was the most acceptable to them. However, he had broken through Wu Huang at such a young age. This also shocked the elders of the various sections. No wonder that nameless sect could rise up overnight. It turned out that the patriarch himself was not an ordinary person. Plop. Jun Changxiao sat back in his seat and said angrily, "You didn't even let me finish. So annoying." The corners of everyone's mouth twitched. It was already good enough that he wasn't kicked out by forcefully advertising such a sacred competition. How dare he throw a tantrum? Everyone. At this moment, a deep voice sounded in the venue. On the high platform in the center of the venue, a middle-aged man in brocade clothes appeared out of nowhere. He cupped his hands and said with a smile, "Welcome to this year's Dragon and Tiger Battle for Supremacy. Han Dongsheng, the city lord of the great sage imperial city. He was in charge of this year's Dragon and Tiger Battle for Supremacy." The appearance of the city lord meant that the competition was about to begin. So the audience in the venue immediately became excited. "It's my honor to be able to hold the Dragon and Tiger Battle for Supremacy in the great sage imperial city," City Lord Han said with a smile. Next, he introduced the glorious history of the competition in detail. There was no other way. Such a big competition had to go through the process. Many people in the audience were sleepy. Next, City Lord Han, who had been talking for a long time, suddenly changed the topic and said, "Disciples of the participating sects, please enter the venue." Shwa, shwa. In an instant, the sleepy audience seemed to have been injected with chicken blood, and they instantly became energetic. It's starting, it's starting. The cultivators in the various cities also became excited. Not long after, one after another, handsome and extraordinary young men appeared on the light screen of the projection array. Every time a disciple of a sect appeared, someone would shout out the name of the sect, causing the audience to cheer enthusiastically. Next up is the sect of all times, an old man said in a deep voice. An old man introduced in a deep voice. This sect has a total of 25 disciples participating in the competition. They are also the only sect from southwest Yangzhou that is participating. The spectator stands instantly became silent. Most of them were from other sects, or the family members of the participants. Naturally, they wouldn't cheer for a sect that they didn't know. Sect of all times. Sect of all times. In the Azure Sun City, deafening cheers could be heard from the crowded streets. Loud cheers could also be heard from the other 7 cities. Although the sect of all times wasn't cheering, there were tens of millions of people in the Azure Sun County cheering behind them. Amidst the cheers of the villagers, the 25 disciples of the sect of all times led by Lu Qianqian and Li Qingyang walked out of the passage. The projection array gave each disciple a close-up, causing the entire Azure Sun County to be in an uproar again. Patriarch, an old man said excitedly, "It's the young master." Patriarch Li stabilized his body with difficulty, and his hands were trembling uncontrollably. When the 100 sects recruited him, Li Qingyang insisted on joining the Ironbone sect, which made him very angry. Now that he was standing on the highest level of the sect's tournament, he deeply realized how far-sighted his son was. "Master, the young master is out." When Song Xuanzhou's close-up appeared on the projection array, Patriarch Song sat on the chair. Because of the excitement in his heart, he couldn't support his old body anymore. The child's father is little Mo. A couple in their 50s stood in the crowd. When they saw their son walk out with his head held high, their eyes were already blurred by tears. Xiang is out. When Long Xiang appeared on the projection array, the direct descendants of the Long family were instantly excited. The happiest ones were definitely the members of the sect of all times. At this moment, tens of thousands of disciples were sitting on the martial arts field, focused on the projection array in front of the main hall. When they saw their senior sisters and senior brothers coming out, they danced and cheered. "Old man." Elder Wei frowned and said, "You secretly intercepted the projection array. If you were discovered, wouldn't you be in trouble?" Zhen Dejuan said solemnly, "If I'm discovered, I'll eat a brick raw." In the faraway Taishan Shengzong, a disciple said in surprise, "The woman who flashed through the array just now looked a little familiar." Lu Qianqian, Tisk Tsk. This woman who was expelled actually joined the sect of all times. From a first-rate sect to a fifth-rate sect, what a tragedy. Ta-ta. From afar, the disciples of the sect of all times stepped onto the stage in the middle of the venue. The 25 of them stood in a neat row with their hands behind their backs. They exuded an aura of steel and iron. The disciples who entered first all turned their heads to look. These are the disciples of the sect of all times? Although they exuded a strong aura, their aura was a little weak. If they met in a competition, they should be able to defeat them easily. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others were also sizing up the competitors. Especially when they felt the strong aura they exuded, their blood started to boil. "Babies." Jun Changxiao raised his legs and placed them on the chair in front of him. He said, "Use your strength to prove yourself." Chapter 706. Li Qingyang and the others were already used to using the hidden cultivation technique anytime and anywhere, so their aura was very ordinary. On the other hand, the other sect disciples who entered the arena were all doing their best to show their strongest side in such a grand competition. It was useless. Whether he was powerful or not, he would only know after fighting. Xiao Ziji had been watching the sect disciples enter the arena the entire time. When he saw the rough man who had asked for directions earlier, his eyes immediately flashed with a strong fighting spirit. His intuition told him that this would be a very good opponent. The rough man also looked over and grinned. There was no verbal communication between the two, only eye contact. Jun Changshao rubbed his chin and said, "From the introduction, he should be the Iron Fist Sect's disciple Zhao Dezhuang." Iron Fist Sect, a third-rate sect. They majored in fist techniques, especially in the creation of the physical body. This disciple called Zhao Dezhuang had an indestructible body. If he met his own disciple, he should be able to stage a wonderful battle. "I'm looking forward to it," Jun Changshao said. As the organizers continued to shout out the names of the sects, more and more participants entered the venue. Tisk. An arrogant warrior stood lazily on the high platform and said, "They're all trash. Coming to participate in this kind of competition is nothing more than a waste of time." His name was Ao Wushuang, the world-defying sacred sect's young patriarch. Although this guy appeared to be very arrogant, he had real ability. He had already broken through to the martial king realm a few years ago. In his words, if he was interested in fighting on the Gathering of Heroes list, he would have already occupied the top of the heaven rank. Ao Wushuang looked at a warrior in the distance and said disdainfully, "Trash." The corners of Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others' mouths twitched. Because this guy standing not far away, the trash he was talking about, was Yi Xingchen. Normally, junior brother would always call him trash, but now, he was actually called trash by someone else. "Are you talking about me?" Yi Xingchen's face darkened. Ao Wushuang said indifferently, "What? You still don't admit it when I say you're trash?" Crack! Yi Xingchen clenched his fists and said in a low voice, "You'd better not meet me. Otherwise, I'll tear that mouth of yours apart." "Hey," Ao Wushuang said. "I didn't expect you to be more arrogant than me." Yi Xingchen did not say anything else. With his personality, it was impossible for him to argue with a piece of trash. "Kid, you'd better pray that you don't meet me, otherwise, I'll make sure you don't die." The various sects entered one after another. As the finale, there would definitely be 5 first-rate sections. Although they didn't send out their strongest disciples, the aura they exuded after entering the arena still made many participants feel pressured. The elders of the various sects on the spectator stand prayed silently in their hearts that when the lots were drawn, they would not be drawn against a first-rate sect. Otherwise, they would lose in the first round. "Tisk," Ao Wushuang said disdainfully, "Still trash." He didn't even put a first-rate sect disciple in his eyes. This guy was really arrogant. The 200 sects participating in the Dragon-Tiger battle were all in position, and the 5,000 participants were on the high platform in the middle. Everyone must be getting impatient from waiting. City Lord Han said loudly, "So let's not waste any more words. Disciples of the various sects, please step forward and draw your first opponent." Coming. I wonder which sect will be the unlucky one to draw a first-rate sect in the first round. The spectating martial artists watched with rapt attention. "Junior brother," Lu Qianqian said, "you go." As the eldest disciple of the sect, she was supposed to represent the sect of all times to draw an opponent, but because of her personality, she didn't like to show her face in public. "Okay." Li Qingyang stood up and walked over. "Senior brother," Su Xiaoma shouted, "you must draw a better opponent." The disciples of the various sects nearby all laughed when they heard that. The fifth-rate sects at the bottom would always meet a sect stronger than them no matter how they drew. What kind of better opponent could they meet? They misunderstood. Su Xiaoma didn't mean that the opponent was weak, but that their overall strength was stronger. Only then would they have the desire to battle. Jun Patriarch. On the spectator stand, Duan Zisho smiled faintly and said, "Your sect's disciples better not draw my Jinhuang holy sect." "Is that so?" Jun Changshao smiled and said to himself, "Qingyang have better luck. You must draw Jinhuang holy sect for me, and then beat them like dogs." Ta. Li Qingyang stood on the drawing platform. It was a square box with only a hole that could accommodate a palm. There were many sect tokens inside, and one of them would be the opponent of the first round. Phew, Li Qingyang took a deep breath. His draw would determine the sect's opponent. It was okay to draw a fourth-rate sect, but it would be depressing to draw a first-rate sect. General Manager Li was under great pressure. Yi Tianxing, who was in the Heavenly Mandate Royal City, was even more stressed than him. At this time, his heart was in his throat. In the previous Dragon-Tiger battle for hegemony, the sects that were sent were absolutely terrible in drawing lots. For example, the previous one. The opponent was a second-rate sect, and they were eliminated in the first round. For example, the previous one. Although the opponent was a fourth-rate sect, it was from the Zhongzhuang state, and they were eliminated in the first round. God bless. Yi Tianxing prayed secretly. I must draw a fourth-rate sect from another state. Swoosh. Li Qingyang raised his hand and reached into the drawing box. There were tokens inside, and there were restrictions on them. He couldn't use his spiritual senses to see what was written on them. Swoosh. Li Qingyang quickly withdrew his hand. The process was very short, and Yi Tianxing subconsciously closed his eyes. He didn't dare to look. He didn't dare to look. The opponent of the sect of all times is. At this time, City Lord Han's deep voice came from the array light screen. The Great Evolution Holy Sect. Plop. Yi Tianxing fell to the ground and said in despair. A first-rate sect. It's over, it's over. Mu Changheng broke down. 5 first-rate sects were drawn. That kid must not have washed his hands in the toilet. The bustling Qingyang County instantly became abnormally quiet after City Lord Han called out the name of the first-rate sect. This luck. Ma Yunting covered his head and said, no one else. The leaders of the various sects in the Dragon Arc battle venue were also very depressed. After all, they didn't draw their opponents in the first round. This newly risen sect actually drew the Great Development Saint sect. It's over, it's over. Southwest Yangzhou still can't change their fate of being eliminated in the first round. Everyone immediately started discussing. Among them, many martial artists who thought that the sect of all times would be a dark horse shook their heads and sighed helplessly. If this third-rate sect encountered a fourth-rate sect from another state, they might be able to advance. However, if they encountered a first-rate sect in the first round, they would definitely be eliminated. For a moment, the entire audience was focused on Li Qingyang. Even the projection array gave him a close-up. This guy was really lucky to draw a first-rate sect. Sigh. Li Qingyang shook his head and then turned around. He looked at his fellow sect members with a helpless expression and said, I tried my best. Crack crack Xiao Ziji Su Xiaoma. And the others shook their heads and clenched their fists. They grinned and said, this is exciting. They were laughing. The audience widened their eyes. Based on the previous plots, shouldn't they be crying and feeling despair after drawing a first-rate sect in the first round? Duan Zisho was also stunned. Hee! Suddenly, laughter came from the side. Duan Zisho hurriedly turned his head and saw Jun Changshao leaning on the chair with one leg crossed. He covered his face with one hand and laughed strangely. The first round against a first-rate sect is really exciting. The disciples of the sect of all times were crazy. The sect of all times patriarch was also crazy. Chapter 707. When Li Qingyang drew the first-rate Grand Evolution Sacred Sect, everyone was sure that this Dark Horse sect was going to lose. However, when they saw the disciples of the sect of all times grinning with intense battle intent in their eyes, the audience was dumbfounded. Were they crazy? Or were they forcing themselves to smile because they knew that they had no chance of winning against a first-rate sect in the first round? If that was the case, it was understandable. The disciples of the sect of all times did not want to face a first-rate sect in the first round. After all, in such a grand competition, it was more interesting to fight from the weak to the strong. However, since they had no other choice, they could only fight. Su Xiaoma and the other disciples who did not fight when they challenged the Lily Sacred Sect felt their blood boiling. Facing a first-rate sect in the first round was undoubtedly very exciting. It's over, it's over. Yi Tianxing's eyes were filled with despair. Drawing a first-rate sect in the first round was definitely the worst result that any sect in southwest Yangzhou had in the history of the Dragon Tiger competition. At that moment, he hoped that the sect of all times would draw a third-rate sect from the middle continent. That way, they would at least have a chance of survival. Although the Grand Evolution Sacred Sect did not send out their strongest lineup, the disciples they brought are also very strong. The sect of all times will definitely lose. If a fifth-rate sect meets a first-rate sect, you can imagine the outcome even if you think with your toes. The Grand Evolution Sacred Sect is basically guaranteed to enter the second round. Many martial artists discussed and looked at the disciples of the Grand Evolution Sacred Sect in the middle of the field. As expected, they all had smiles on their faces. When they looked at the disciples of the sect of all times, they even sneered. "Senior brother," a disciple said calmly, "facing a fifth-rate sect in the first round is really not challenging at all. Just nice." Someone said, "We can save some energy to deal with the later opponents." In the eyes of the Grand Evolution Sacred Sect disciples, only the second-rate sects and the other 4 first-rate sects could cause trouble for them. As long as they encountered other sects, they would just be sending themselves to death. However, in the eyes of June Patriarch, this sect was also sending itself to death. No, to be exact, it was sending itself to death. Because when Li Qingyang drew the Grand Evolution Sacred Sect, the side mission was triggered. The content of the mission was very simple. Defeat this first-rate sect in the Dragon Tiger battle. If completed, the reward would be 2 experience talismans. In the past, the rewards would be given after completion. The side mission this time was actually marked with a price tag. No wonder when Arjun Gosheng saw this, he covered his face and let out a strange laughter. If he defeated this sect and obtained the reward, he would be able to use the 2 experience talismans to break through a grade. What are you waiting for? Beat him, beat him, beat him. At that moment, Jun's face's face Tu's face. Duan Zishou, who didn't know what was going on, thought that he might have realized that his opponent was too strong and couldn't take the blow. That was why he was close to going insane. Sigh. How pitiful. The draw was still ongoing. Sects to sect, of course. Many people were happy because they had drawn a low-level sect. But there were also people who were in despair because they had drawn a top-level sect. Let's cut the crap. After drawing lots, City Lord Han announced, "The first round of the Dragon Tiger battle for supremacy will now begin." Boom. Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, fireworks bloomed in the sky. It has finally begun. After the fireworks festival ended, all the martial artists in the continent instantly entered a state of excitement. The first battle of the first round, the Sect of All Times versus the Grand Evolution Sacred Sect. Disciples from both sides, please enter the stage. Such a grand competition, coupled with City Lord Han's deep and penetrating voice, enhanced the atmosphere to the extreme. Shwa. Shwa. The 25 disciples of the Grand Evolution Sacred Sect appeared on the battle stage, causing the audience to cheer enthusiastically. First-rate sects had a lot of fans. On the other hand, the 25 disciples of the Sect of All Times appeared on the battle stage, causing the entire venue to quiet down. It didn't matter if there was no audience cheering. As soon as Li Qingyang and the others appeared on the screen, the entire Azure Sun County erupted into thunderous cheers. Although the Sect of All Times had drawn a first-rate sect, the situation was very grim. Even so, the martial artists and ordinary citizens of the Azure Sun County would still treat them as heroes and cheer for them with passion. Sect of All Times, hold on. A martial artist yelled at the top of his lungs. Sect of All Times, hold on. Sect of All Times, hold on. The cheers from countless people shook the sky of the Azure Sun County. Even some 3-year-old children were affected by the atmosphere. They clenched their fists and yelled at the screen. Sect of All Times, hold on. Representatives from both sides. An old man stepped onto the stage and said, "Will it be a one-on-one battle or a chaotic battle?" Many disciples would participate in every dragon and tiger battle. They could choose a one-on-one battle or a chaotic battle to determine the winner. Actually, there were one-on-one and group battles at the beginning, but the latter was too time-consuming. Thus, the 2 battles were combined, and the participants were allowed to make their own choices. Whatever, Li Qingyang said. Su Xiaoma and the others behind him were full of battle intent. To them, it didn't matter if it was a one-on-one battle or a group battle, as long as they could fight to their heart's content. The leading disciple of the Great Development Sacred Sect said calmly, "It's too time-consuming to fight 25 people one by one. Why don't we have a chaotic battle?" "Sure," Li Qingyang said. The old man announced loudly, "The first battle of the first round of the Dragon and Tiger battle will be a chaotic battle." A chaotic battle? The sect of all times is really courageous. They actually dare to fight a first-rate sect. I'm afraid they don't want to waste time. They should quickly lose and pack their bags to go home. Just as the crowd was discussing, the disciples of the Great Development Sacred Sect had already spread out. Powerful spiritual energy instantly filled the air. Oh my God! They're all martial kings. Nonsense, this is a first-rate sect. They're only ordinary disciples. If they sent their elite disciples, the other sects wouldn't have a need to participate. When the disciples of the Great Development Sacred Sect entered battle mode and unleashed their martial king cultivation, the venue immediately entered a small climax. The projection formation was a little naughty. At this moment, the camera turned to the disciples of the sect of all times. It was as if they wanted to show the despair on their faces in front of the 25 martial kings of the Great Development Sacred Sect. It was not despair. It was endless fighting spirit. Li Qingyang, who was standing at the front, gently raised his hand. Xiao Ziji, Yi Xingchen, and the rest spread out and locked on to one of the disciples of the Great Development Sacred Sect. Some of them were smiling, and some of them were showing disdain. The battle begins. At this moment the referee shouted loudly, "Go!" The disciple of the Great Development Sacred Sect shouted. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a gust of wind blew. Su Xiaoma instantly approached and swept his right leg that was filled with spiritual energy. Boom, thump, thump, thump. The disciple of the Great Development Sacred Sect staggered backward with his hands crossed. His eyes were filled with astonishment. Stomp. Su Xiaoma strode forward and leaped into the air. His footprints suddenly exploded in midair and pressed down like an inescapable net. Boom, boom, boom. The violent footprints crashed down again and again. The disciple of the Great Development Sacred Sect could only activate his chi wall to resist. Although he managed to defuse it, he was forced to take more than 10 steps back. Boom. On the other side, an explosion was heard. Xiao Zuiji, whose entire body was filled with earth element spiritual energy, was bombarding his opponent. With every attack, the air was filled with an afterimage that was almost solid. The audience widened their eyes. The battle had just begun, and the two disciples of the sect of all times seemed to be as powerful as the disciples of the Great Development Sacred Sect. Boom! At this moment, an explosion was heard from the screen again. Everyone looked over and saw a disciple of the Great Development Sacred Sect had fallen at the edge of the arena. Yi Xingchen stopped in front of him and said calmly, "Trash." Boom! He kicked him. That disciple of the Great Development Holy Sect flew out and fell outside the fighting stage with a grimace on his face. Eliminated. Eliminated. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.